So I will begin with the mayor's agenda. I do not have any agenda items. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them. Moving on to the city clerk. Chris, anything?
Nothing tonight.
To our city treasurer, Jamie?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, going on to our city administrator, Blaine Wing. Blaine?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, Ashley, our assistant, as well as our labor attorney, are going to be walking through the second part of our updates in regards to our personnel manual.
So, let's see. I have it plugged in, but I'm not sure how to. There we go.
Have a microphone? Yeah, fine.
I'll make sure I'm speaking into the microphone. So, good evening. As Blaine had introduced me, essentially we are picking up where we left off about a month ago at the July 27th work session. The first batch of proposed policy updates for our employee handbook included all of the specifically the legal recommendations, so the things that had changed in our state and federal codes that would be advisable to adopt in writing within our codes. As we had further discussion that evening, and we also let you guys know that we planned to return to City Council for some policy direction on specific to some policy updates for the handbook. What we have in the memo, I just very briefly summarized, and I'll be able to expand on anything that council members would like me to expand on. But essentially we have 10 proposed recommendations, both staff-driven as well as things that our council members had advised we take a look at. So I will just list them and we can dive into any detail as you like. We are proposing introduction of a high deductible health plan and a health savings account. This is broadly a tool used by many municipalities as well as private sector groups to help employees pay for health insurance costs and health expenses. High deductible plan allows for just that, using a higher deductible in order to reduce the premium cost paid up front. So it also, with the health savings account, would allow employees to put money aside to help them pay for some of those expenses. So we do need to kind of have an idea whether we'd like to introduce this before our health insurance renews. That's coming up in January, and we just want to see kind of the appetite for whether this is something that we'd want to add to our benefits. This is at the employee's expense, but it's just something that we would offer if anybody wanted to use it. We have an insurance opt-out benefit. Again, this is something that would be a voluntary choice for employees who opt out of city-provided health insurance. So often there will be a cash incentive that goes along with this opt-out that the city would save on future expenditures and premium costs if our employees aren't choosing it, if they have an alternative. And if we were to offer any kind of benefit or cash stipend, it would still, the city's savings would be far greater. Our plans are between $8,000 to $34,000 right now. And so if just a couple of people would opt out of our insurance voluntarily, there may be some savings there. We have listed a pilot for a limited flexible work program. This would just be a very small increment of managerial level employees. Specifically, the employees listed are in the memo, allowing by permission occasional hours worked in another location.
Can you give us more details on that?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that? And before you start,
sure.
Can we have our attorney please sit on the table? She's writing on her lap. Thank you.
Okay. So this would be very narrowly tailored. It would be for our salaried FLSA exempt employees. We listed them out in the memo. The purpose for this is basically we have technology that allows us to do work. We already perform work on behalf of the city at times. We make sure that agenda items are being completed. We have other responsibilities. And this would essentially provide greater guidance and accountability for our managerial staff, our supervisory staff that might need a little bit of flexibility. So say, for instance, I keep using this example of, if you're at a training that is, an hour from here and the training ends at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3:30 p.m., well, is the expectation that the supervisor goes from, wherever it is, they travel the hour and they spend the last 20 minutes here? Or would it be advisable for them to take that time in place to finish doing the workday, as long as they remain accessible by phone, by email? There's things that are going to be showing productivity, essentially. So it would be a very limited experience. But it would be a policy that we would set in place for just a short period of time. We're wanting to try this through April next year. It would have to be approved by a supervisor ahead of this work occurring. And then we would have to also, have an idea of what the work is that would be performed. So.
Are you making reference to salaried employees or hourly employees?
Just the salaried employees. The ones listed specifically would be proposed through this would be the police chief, deputy chiefs, finance director, community and economic development director, a building commissioner, public works director, public works superintendents, the engineering director, the HR assistant administrator, and the city administrator if received mayor approval.
Okay, now
So
being
very
salaried,
narrowed.
don't they already have that flexibility? Because they're salaried, so there may be times when they have to come in under circumstances of not normal work hours. So
Correct.
wouldn't that flexibility is already in their salary?
It's not explicitly put into our handbook as a policy. So we'd be looking for, well, there is this expectation that as salaried employees, we should be performing that work and making sure that we're accountable for the things that we're responsible for. This would put in place a policy for certain exceptions. If you have a medical appointment unexpectedly at 10 o'clock in the morning, is it reasonable for us to allow our supervisors to spend time away from the office working for those couple of hours and then returning after that appointment, right? It seems logical that we would do that anyway, but it's not explicitly put into a policy, and we thought it might be helpful for us to put one in place to also reduce, unnecessary use of additional paid leave if we can conduct the work.
Isn't that what they have their time for, sick time?
Yes. So.
Okay. I asked the question in the beginning, what's the purpose? So far, I don't see a logic answer
Okay.
to.
Yes, thank you. So this is definitely a policy decision of the City Council that's being asked to be considered for introduction for those exempt employees that hold more of a managerial position within the city. With respect to whether they're FLSA exempt, that is definitely a good point. But what that means is, regardless of whether they work 40 hours, 35 hours, 45 hours, they'll get paid the same salary. This is a policy that would address allowing these employees to work outside of the City Hall building, their office building here. So on days when maybe they have a training or they have some other personal appointment, instead of having to take sick time, they would be able to work during that period of time as long as they were set up remotely to be able to do so. So it allows the employees an opportunity to, be more productive if they can in a remote environment. If the council decides that this is the direction they would like to go on a temporary basis for this trial period to see how it works, a policy would have to be established because there are things that have to be put into place, like rules regarding how they treat the equipment and that they have to work in an environment that's still confidential in nature. Those kinds of things would have to be established so that the employees that could work remotely are properly guided so that, they can work efficiently, they protect the interests of the city, and, and they have the right guidance to do so.
So are you saying that right now, the way the contract is written and the way the policies are, they're not allowed to work from home? So we have past finance director, we have public work director, which I can say their names right now. For a fact, I knew that they used to work from home. People that they're responsible, they take their laptop with them and they work. I have people that work on the weekend. They used to work on the weekend because their salary, it doesn't matter. It's not overtime. They're not clocking in, clocking out. To me, if I'm a manager or director or whoever I am, if I am responsible, I have a task, I'm going to finish it no matter what. So, and not everyone comes here on time. I mean, we know that nobody comes here at 8 a.m. exactly. So what you're saying is, on the top of it, they don't come on time and they leave early and they take long breaks because that's what it happens, that we have to, pass a policy. So on top of it, because they have a doctor appointment or because they're in training, how many times a year they're going to training? And that they can just go home after that. I mean, for an hour, who wants to come here for an hour? I understand that part. Right. But what is there to say in their contract that they need to go work from home or they cannot work from home? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. So I feel like we're opening a can of worms of problems right now because how you supervise that, and don't tell me, Blaine or you're going to give them permission. It's just going to get out of hand. We've done it in the past, and Tina can address that. That went out of hand, especially through COVID, when people were working at home, supposedly, and they were not working at home. I just don't see it myself.
The instance she's referring to is the previous HR director, or whatever her title was we were allowing her to work remotely from home because it was COVID, and she was at the Jewel cleaning shopping carts. Okay, so not only was she not at home doing her work for the city, but she was exposing herself to the COVID, which we had said you could stay home and work. So, and this, she wasn't the only one that did this, but that was in my history of ridiculousness, that's probably my number one, that somebody would literally be cleaning shopping carts at the Jewel during COVID when they're getting paid to stay home and safe. It left a very, very, very sour taste in people's mouths, and justifiably so. And who was responsible for her, and who was monitoring her?
And that's exactly the reason that we're not proposing this as a regular schedule of any kind. There's no expectation of this always being approved. We, are understanding and recognizing that there's a retention factor of saying, having an hour or two of flexibility. But yes, we could use the paid time that is provided to these supervisors. Ultimately, the work will get done because that is the quality of employees that we have.
Hold on, excuse me 1 second.
Yeah.
We lost,
Yeah.
we lost microphone. Oh.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Are you back now? It sounds like it's not yet.
Hello.
Okay.
There
now
we
we're
go.
back.
Okay. Do you need me to repeat anything, Chris?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, As I said, the intent is not to establish any kind of regular work policy. There's no expectations of this being always approved. It's just a recognition of the fact that these employees, many of them are already working over that period of 40 hours. We are going to get the work done, but it also allows for people to, basically be granted permission to work outside of the office on a very limited basis with understanding of the supervisor, the people that may report to them, and that they are responsive to whoever it is at the workplace, rather than just taking a sick day or taking a vacation day and not being available. And so that's kind of the idea, is that if we grant a little bit of flexibility in the expectation that you slide the work hours from 3 to 5 p.m. to 7 to 9 p.m. that day, we understand that work is getting done and somebody's holding them accountable. And so the attempt was just to put this into a policy rather than saying, if it's council's direction that all work has to be performed here and there's no exceptions, we'll make the time to come back to the office if the work day's not done.
I think what they were saying down there is in the case of salaried people,
Yeah.
they already have that flexibility. We all know certain people, like Blaine, work well over 40 hours.
Yeah.
And if he's somewhere and he's got an hour, he's already done his time. Nobody would expect him to return. I wouldn't. So I'm just a little fuzzy on who exactly, and you talk about using a day here. In what particular instance would somebody want to use a whole day working at home?
I would only expect that if there's if someone lives far away, it's not reasonable for them to get a car service, for example, to come here while their car is fixed. They don't have transportation for the day. That might be an instance. It could be, they are, I'm trying to think if there's any other
I'll give a couple
reason.
examples. So I just had some roof work because we had a recent storm and my house got damaged. For me, if I would have not scheduled that work right at the beginning of the day and stayed until 6 or 8 o'clock at night, I would have basically needed to work or felt I needed to work the full 8 hours. Another instance is I recently had an MRI, so I had a medical appointment. I was only 30 minutes away from being home. I came back and worked several more hours, and even though it was after 3:30, to come back here and work. So even though I already had 40 hours for the week, because our technical policy from our personnel manual says that the 40 hours needs to be done here, even though I'm a salary fully paid, I might even be a little bit different because it says I can work with the mayor on kind of a set schedule. But again, I think the directors would follow the same thing, and that's where Ashley, along with our labor attorney, have drafted it for a very, very tight pilot for basically the directors and assistants. There are the 3 superintendents. There isn't an assistant there, so that's kind of that middle management component. There's about 13 or 15 specific positions that would be eligible for a pilot.
But isn't that your position? You're a city administrator. Everybody works a lot of hours as a city administrator. I mean, I've never heard that before. Not one city administrator have said I'm overworked, I mean, that's your job. You're supposed to be available 24/7. That's city administrator position. So as a chief, so as this high, paid salary, that's part of your position. And what to say to other staff? I was saying that department heads are more important than other staff, that they need to go to an appointment. An example, like the clerk or the mayor's assistant, they have the same right. If they're going to go to an appointment, maybe they should not use their personal day, and they should go home from there and work from home. Some of them have kids too. Maybe they'll be happy to work from home.
Yeah, so
you're opening kind of warm of that. I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah, so you've, I guess, intermingled hourly employees with salary employees with administrative assistants. In addition, yes, I would say management employees are different. What I wouldn't want to have happen is our employees, let's just say a director chooses to take 4 hours for sick time, and then we have to wait at least 2 to 3 weeks for an agenda item to get completed because they said, man, look, couldn't work from home. I was sick. I went to the doctor's appointment. I don't feel well. I'm getting paid. I'll use my 4 hours sick time that I'm able to
But
get
what is
done.
prevent them from working from home? See, nobody's answering this question.
Sure.
We don't have a policy that says if I'm sick and I'm a director, I can grab my laptop and work. Do we have the thing that you're not supposed to work from home? I mean, as a director, I'm hoping they will do that if you're responsible for an agenda item.
If council, if you feel we don't need to have a policy and that it's already there, I would defer to our attorney. I mean, my understanding is they are wanting so that there's not an abuse that it did happen before is to have an actual policy.
No, but you're
So
making
then-
it sound like the whole city function is going to stop because, I mean, you just said that, oh, it's going to take 4 days and because they're going to be home, they're not going to be able to finish the project. I mean, you guys have plenty of weeks to put something on the agenda and work on it. So that's the part that I'm not understanding. We know ahead of time what's going to be the next work session and the next work session. I think you laid them out for like almost a month or two.
I
You
tried
know
to.
what's coming up, so we work on the subject. So if you're home sick for a couple hours, are you going to tell me you're not going to be able to finish the subject or
Yeah, so I'll give you
your
a perfect
agenda?
example. Last week, our engineer, Ron, came to me and had a new topic to come up on Friday. If he went home sick, that was not going to be on the agenda. And if he went home sick, we would miss that, and it would have to be another 2 more weeks before we'd be able to get there. He's the only person that has that information, and again, instead of working from home, he would take the sick time. Again, my understanding is through our current personnel manual, we don't have the ability to not get credit for not basically doing work here on the premise. My guess is that probably maybe was strictly interpreted due to maybe a past abuse. And without having a policy, that's where the labor attorney is saying it's better to have a policy than to just have it open-ended. If council is comfortable with open-ended, I'm fine allowing the directors, the salaried staff, unless the attorney advises otherwise.
I'm not saying it should be open-ended, and I'm not saying there's not a workable solution for a temporary thing, but it just sounds so open-ended here, all these people having the ability to work from home, and who's going to be monitoring this? And I mean, how are we going to know how many hours they're doing and what they're doing? And is this council going to be made aware of this? Or is this just going to be something we hear through the agreement? Because I can see the abuse happening. Oh, my child was sick, so I stayed home and I worked from home. Well, I don't know about anybody up here, but as a single parent, when your child's sick, you're taking care of your child. You're not doing work from home. So, there's just so many questionable elements here that is open to abuse. And I'm not saying we can't find a solution, but this just seems so broad stroke here that all these people can just work from home. I'm not quite sure. I understand there's paperwork to do. I understand there's reports. But I also understand, there's crime and there's water main breaks and there's all these other things that you can't do from home. So I think that at best this would be a very, very limited thing. And it's really got to be watched. I mean, this was so abused in the past. You cannot blame anybody that was up here at that time for having a nasty taste in their mouth, because when you see your taxpayer money going to pay somebody to work another job, it's kind of maddening.
So with I would agree with that, and with a policy, we can put into action that somebody isn't able to work a secondary job, and those are offenses that would be able to be disciplined and potentially up to termination if they're violating a policy. As this was written already, it's a very narrow group, so this isn't supervisors that must be watching somebody that is here, that maybe a chief, a deputy chief could be handling the day-to-day operations while the chief is at a training for 2 hours. there's a lot of this that's already occurring. If the chief is at a chief's meeting for 2 hours, one of the deputy chiefs are typically here. So a lot of that component's already taking place. I don't think as it's written as a limited pilot, I think that there would be the documentation to say, okay, we had so many individuals between now and the end of the fiscal year, which is the April 30th date, that we had so many individuals, this is the time, this is how many hours and all that. That's why it's a very succinct amount. It's not broadly written for all salaried employees. It's a very narrow scope.
Did you say you would or wouldn't be able to document that?
No, we would.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah, we would be able to document and give even monthly reports.
Blaine, if somebody's working from home, they still have to answer their phone, don't they?
Yes, they have to answer their phone. We also use Microsoft, the Office suite, so they could be...
So if one of the aldermen needs to contact them for something, they're still going to be able to reach them?
Yes.
They're just going to answer their phone from their house versus their office there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. How much sick time do you get a year? Is it days or something broken down
Yeah,
into
so
hours?
typically it's,
or-
so it's typically for each month you're earning up to 8 hours, and then there's a max people
So
can carry some
basically a
time
day.
over.
Right.
Yeah,
So
basically a
12
day.
days a year
Yes.
is what it comes to. So my question then being, okay, say you're going to be working from home, I don't have to use my sick day or sick time. So let's say you do that all year, and at the end of the year, what happens to those 12 days because you never used a sick day or any sick time, and you work from home instead, so what happens to the sick time?
Well, the sick time would continue to roll over to the maximum level that you can accrue that.
And what's the maximum level?
I have to check the actual book to get a count. Finance might know. Glenn is going to find that. But ultimately, remember that the city, when employees leave the city, they're not paid out sick days. So it's either employees are using that sick time and they're being paid for those sick days, or they choose not to use them and they're not paid for that sick time. So there's, an advantage for our employees to stay healthy, to stay present, to stay productive, and not use sick time. I think that there's an understanding too in the, way in which we can draft a policy too. Like, one of the things I feel very strongly about is that if you are not capable of performing your work effectively and with your full concentration, you shouldn't be doing remote work.
Exactly.
Right? You should be taking sick time, you should be caring for a dependent, you should be taking your vacation time, whatever it is, that's the expectation, right? You need to take those sick hours to go to your doctor's appointment or whatever the case is. That's the expectation. But if there's hours on outside of those things where it's not practical for you to travel back and forth, then that's what this is for, right?
Yeah, this is not in place of, just like Ashley said, this is not an opportunity for someone that's sick and can't be working efficiently to just not take their sick day and not fully complete their work. This is a flexible benefit that's, being brought forward to the city council for those management employees on a temporary basis, and staff will monitor
Right.
and provide input and information to the city council to see if the policy is working. But that is something a policy would say. It would say something along the lines like, this is not to be used in place of a sick day. And the supervisor that would authorize that remote day shouldn't be allowing a remote day for someone that's sick. That would be on the supervisor to say, no, you're not going to be capable of working. You should take your sick day.
I have a question. So with this, the use of flexible time as you're thinking of it, would that need to be approved in advance?
It
Yes.
would,
And a reason would need to be given?
yes.
And what would the acceptable reasons be?
Yeah, a couple of examples, and we can clarify, and we would, if this is, something you consider, we can bring the actual policy language forward. A couple of them would be, like I said, authorized training right? That bookends kind of the workday. There are medical or similar appointments for the employee or a dependent scheduled at a time where it's possible to perform work away for a period of time.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you explain that one a little more?
So if there is, if you say, I have to be the one to take a dependent to an appointment, a parent, a child, a spouse, take them to an appointment at noon, right? For a doctor's appointment or
Okay.
something. So
Okay.
they go to a doctor's medical appointment. You need to provide transportation, whatever, they're
Sure.
ill. So you take them. Is the expectation that we have someone come in before that appointment and then drive back home and do the appointment and then come back to the office? Or is it reasonable to say, hey, my supervisor is allowing me to work, from home in the morning. I'll return to the office after that's
Okay.
done.
And that's,
Right.
that particular situation of taking a dependent
Yeah.
to a doctor's appointment, how would that generally be scheduled now? What kind of time away would be used to do that?
Yeah, it's up to the employee if they would end up choosing to use a sick day.
time.
Essentially, they may return to the office after anyway, but it would allow for us to have some accountability for the time that it's possible for them to work. during the
So you
day.
said, I think before, that if someone was actually sick and wouldn't
Yes.
have come into work otherwise,
Correct.
that they wouldn't be allowed to work remotely
Yeah,
because they are sick. But if they have an appointment, doctor's appointment for a dependent,
or themselves.
anywhere I've worked is you either schedule personal time, sick time, and I
Yeah.
think any hourly employee is probably under that same understanding.
Yeah,
Usually appointments can be scheduled in advance, and we know doctor's appointments usually are. And I would think for the employees' ability to not use a lot of sick time, that they would either schedule it in the morning, where they could still come to work for the
Right.
majority of their work hours, or toward the afternoon, when they could work the majority of their day prior to the appointment.
sure.
So I still think that this can be used in a way that would obviate the use of sick time, which my understanding is it's not supposed to be that. Sick time, whether it's for yourself or for anyone, you're using sick time.
Yeah, so again, the challenge for these management employees is their work that we want to have done. It's fine for them to use the sick time, comp time. It wouldn't be comp time for these salary employees. It would be personal time or sick time. However, then we've, in essence, paid for them to be off and not doing that. That's fine if that's what council wants to do. It does also sound council would like, and I know I would like, that employee, if they were sitting at their kid's dentist appointment, to be able to be performing work, sitting there for an hour or 2 hours and then coming back. Yes, there wouldn't be the time that they are maybe driving there or driving back, but maybe they came into work 2 hours early, picked up their kid, went there, did work while they were there for the 2 hours. Or they went home after they picked up their kid because it was 3:30, and instead of coming back till 4:30, they spent that extra hour actually doing the work at home, instead of writing off it as personal time or sick time.
These
See,
types of policies.
I just think that as city employees, whether hourly, salary, union or non-union, being here physically is important. Whether you're a supervisor, department head, and you have people that report to you, it's not the same when someone is working remotely. I hate to say it, but employees know their boss isn't there. They're working from home. And there can be a tendency for, I'm not going to say purposely, but things might get a little more lax. And the other thing is, we provide services. Contractors come in, businesses, owners come in, residents come in. They need to talk to something that's important enough to a department head or a city administrator or assistant city administrator. Then they're not here to talk to them. So that's services not being provided. That's the downside of flexible remote work schedules.
I would actually say the opposite. So if they're able to talk to that person instead of they're going to say, I'm sorry, that person is homesick, or that person took a personal day, we actually could connect them up and have a conversation because we're paying them to be available. I've done that as well. To say, okay, yep, I'm happy to take a phone call even though I'm even off on vacation or somewhere else. So I think the department director, so if the chief had a training and was, working from home for an hour, would be happy to talk to somebody on the phone compared to, I'm sorry, he's unavailable, he's taking personal time.
I could see where it could be abused. And I'm sorry, that's how I look at it. During COVID, that was a different situation. Flexible work, remote working became commonplace. And people took full advantage of it, and I know there was a lot of people abusing that. We've heard some examples here today. I just don't really quite see, and I'm not here every day, but see where the need is so great to come up with the policy to allow this now.
I just want to follow up with council. The amount of sick time that you can accrue over the lifetime of your employment is 1,128 hours. I do want to say with regard to having employment, outside employment, that already is covered in the handbook under section 5.9. You are not allowed to have outside employment during regularly scheduled working hours, so that's a violation of the company policy. And with regard to both being work and being remotely, I see both sides of the coin there. As a director myself, while I can do a lot of my work, it's just basically be a computer everywhere, I prefer to be here because I want to be with my staff to get the immediate response, to have the interaction. And I don't like working away from them because of that connection that you have with staff and that real-time response. But there are circumstances where it would be beneficial to have that flexibility. And I think that might be inherent already in the system as long as you don't get abused by it. But I think you have a lot of controls already in place. It looks like it was already addressed with the concerns that you had about the employment. That was addressed. And again, with the sick time, I understand that. But if somebody takes sick time, they're probably not going to work because it's their sick time. They're burning out. So they're probably going to say, well, I'm just going to take care of me. And sometimes that's necessary. But other times, if they're just taking the child to the hospital or whatever, and some of those are very short notice. Like I had an employee that had her daughter had a car accident, and so they had to meet her at the hospital because they didn't know what was happening with her. So we were trying to be flexible with her at that point in time. So go take care of your family. That's the most important thing. Those kind of things happen. But you want to make sure that and she stayed on her phone, even though she doesn't have a company phone, but she was available for us to use, should we have any questions. But I think you'll see that your employees, your good employees, your valued employees, will respond accordingly to that. And if they're not responding, then they're not good employees, and they should be disciplined.
Just follow up on your sick time.
Yes, sir.
What's the limit to accrual in terms of days? 100 something? You said 1,000 hours?
Do a little calculator here. Hold on a second here. I have to go by math.
Does it change?
181 days.
Thank you.
There you go.
181 days is a
That's-
cap. So what happens when an employee leaves the city and
They can sell that back.
so they do get paid back for accrued sick
Yeah.
days?
We do.
I think Ashley said they lose them.
I apologize.
So that,
It's the limit.
not using sick time, but still getting paid for them at the end, even though they were using time away that traditionally would have been sick time used.
But please understand that when you use sick time, you've used 3 consecutive days, you need a doctor's excuse. You can't,
I agree with that.
You can't use more than 24 hours, 24 hours without a doctor's excuse. You need that.
That's a good policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
question, because I'm hearing scenarios. I'm not hearing anything that's definitely happened that may warrant this policy. I mean, is there anything going on now that what prompted this to come about? Because I hear you guys telling me some
Yeah.
what ifs and
Sure.
you know, and what ifs is not normal.
Yeah, well, part of it is that we've gone through a review not only of our handbook, but of, comparable policies, right? And in doing so, we've come across other communities that have a remote policy in place. It's become common. Yes, COVID was a different circumstance. This was an attempt at very narrowly tailoring a couple of instances throughout, the course of a year. Someone may never request to use this. It might be necessary, to deal with a storm damage where, you have a contractor come in your house every, once a day for 2 days, and then you need to be responsive for that, but maybe it's unpredictable time. So, if you have a delivery of some kind, yes, you could take a vacation day, but otherwise, while that is happening, it's allowing us to have our staff be responsive in a way that we can hold them accountable.
I'll add, I've told directors that they have to come in early or stay late for those sort of appointments, so that they are physically here during those hours. Having a policy, a limited policy like this would allow somebody that has a service provider coming in from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock to be able to bring their laptop home knowing that they could be working, waiting for maybe their internet provider to come in as they switch service. I've again told directors they have to put in the time physically here because we don't have a policy that would allow me to do that. If council's saying it's already built in, I'm fine adjusting that. But to me, I've directed directors and I've directed them to direct their staff, their subordinate staff, to do that. This is, again, not going down to the level that a position like a utility billing person could be working remote. There are certain positions that I feel are absolutely critical that they need to be fully functioning in here. Are there other positions, the higher level positions, that are probably putting on average 40, 50, 60 hours a weekend? Yeah, some are even working constantly on weekends. 2 hours to be able to still be performing work would be, valuable to allow that good employee to do it. I think it would be more, not the sick option, but more of the personal time that they would not be eating up or taking a vacation day or 2 hours or 4 hours of personal time. Those would be the examples, I guess, I would typically see, not the sick time kind of examples.
Okay.
Could we get copies of other municipalities' policy on this?
Sure.
To see what other municipalities have?
Yeah.
And
Before
also,
going forward,
Sure.
I think we can come back in another work session on this, correct?
Yes. The intent was to get feedback, essentially testing the waters and seeing what kind of stipulations would be necessary to put something like this in place, if there's certain language that we need to look for, and just generally if people are, in favor or opposed, and we don't know that yet, so we'll come back.
a question. Now, based on what I've heard and what I've read, I don't see where we need a policy. I think we need to maybe tweak the 40-hour at City Hall language a little bit to give some flexibility. Because everything else is already in place.
Yeah.
It's, and on the flip side of that, what is the disciplinary aspect of that? We haven't talked about that. No
Sure.
one addressed that.
Yeah, so with the updates to the proposed policy updates, we brought some of the code of conduct, it's section 5.2, I think, in the handbook. We brought those with some legal recommendations prior, but we would ensure that, anything within this type of policy would also be applicable to violating a code of conduct. There's a great number of items within that code of conduct that we would hold our supervisors to, or whoever this policy applied to.
Okay. And was it really necessary to bring the attorney in on this? I mean, it's a handbook. We can make alterations and adjustments ourselves instead of accruing a legal bill.
Understood. Part of the reason that Attorney Wolf is here is just if there are questions that relate to something that council may want input on, that we're not violating some type of law or creating a concern from a labor law perspective. So, but understood. We can keep moving the conversation along. I think we have guidance about the flexible work item. I will very briefly, there's one other item that I'd like some feedback on, is we have a artificial intelligence use policy. Again,
Right, but
go ahead.
Did you answer the disciplinary aspect of this policy? What it would do? I mean, if you found a person
Yeah.
maybe violating,
I
or
apologize.
let's say a person with their kid at the doctor, since we
Sure.
using that, and they don't want to answer their phone because they're at the kid with the doctor's office.
Yeah.
And you have an obnoxious supervisor who insists that you do what they want you to do even though you're off.
Sure.
You know, and if it doesn't happen, then you got the disciplinary part to deal with. I see that avenue in this as well, and if we're going to do this, it's not to punish or
Right.
micromanage people. It's flexibility. If flexibility is the true essence of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's anything that we would find that would violate the aspects of the policy or any other part of our employee handbook, we would handle initially by, depending on the severity of it, up to, written warnings, a suspension, other thing. I mean, they can escalate. Initially, it would be a counseling and saying, "What are you doing? Why? We're under the impression that you're supposed to be working. You're not." We would have to, essentially take action with at least a written discipline, and also termination of their access to this benefit. That would be my immediate reaction, is that you say you're doing something you're not allowed to do this.
So if the employee is supposed to be working and they were instead conducting their own personal business, that would be a violation of the code of conduct as it stands, even today, without any changes.
Right.
They're not meeting the prescribed standards of work by using work time to perform their own personal duties.
Legally, what discipline is allowable? Because I think just asking them, what are you doing, is not acceptable. I mean, somebody has this and they're told this is the only thing you can use this for, this is how you use it, and then they're cleaning shopping carts at the Jewel. Just saying, what are you doing, isn't acceptable to me.
No, I'm saying they could be disciplined for that. It would fall under a violation of the code of conduct, and the city could implement discipline against that employee. What kind of discipline, I wouldn't be able to tell right now, and discipline is like considered on a fact-by-fact basis. So you'd have to look at the employee's history of employment, and whether they've been disciplined before or violated similar rules of this nature, but you would certainly be able to discipline that employee for a violation of the policy.
And that would have to be a definite fact that it was a violation, not someone's assumption.
Yeah, so again, I can note, I had this sort of policy when I was in Oak Brook. Somebody used this, and then they went to, I think it was Gurney, to one of the amusement parks. So it was pretty easy to see that they were documented on their social media for the time that they were supposed to be working. We looked at that as a theft of time that they filled out. There was numerous violations, and that person actually first got removed from being able to do this and actually got suspended. So there was the various codes of conduct. There was, falsifying documentation. there was theft of time, there was and so that's where on the scale, once we had the actual photos and the video and confirmation, collaboration and some, like a full investigation was done, there were penalties, and it was very strict and severe. And quite honestly, I didn't see any issues for the next 3 years because everybody was very strict on, I'm going to take these 2 hours while my kid's doing this, or there were very few individuals that even requested to take this flexible time because they didn't want to have didn't even want to have to deal with the scrutiny.
But is there anything in this pilot that said if you're working remotely, you must work from home?
It doesn't say that you have to work from home, so it's a flexible.
So they could have been working at Great America with their laptop.
I guess they could have, but we had video of them on a roller coaster and some other stuff.
As long as they got the laptop, they working.
I mean, to me, that would be quite a stretch if they're answering their phones and writing a report and doing that sort of stuff. Now, to me, the reason that we'd be even looking at this is more of like our engineer who's going to be spending 2 hours working on getting a report completed for us, but for that Friday, for an appointment that he may have had earlier in the day. So instead of having to come back for the 2 hours, he'd be able to get that report completed, maybe at his sister's house, or maybe somewhere if he was going on vacation for for a long weekend, instead of coming back to physically be at City Hall.
But couldn't we do that with just?
I'm fine with you guys just giving us the authority and the attorney's nodding saying that's fine.
Can I make one correction? Sorry. With regard to the sick time, it does not get paid out when you terminate, but you can roll it over into your retirement when you retire.
When you retire.
Same thing.
You get
That was my
Just
understanding.
getting the money.
Okay, thank you,
Does
Glenn.
that make sense?
But thank you.
Yeah, it's not when they leave, just they resign, and I will apologize for my casual response about the what are you doing. That was not my intent. We would, take it seriously.
I do believe if we do something, we do need to have it crafted into a policy because we need to be able to enforce discipline. And maybe it's just bitter taste left in my mouth, but I'm going to have long years to recover from what we went through then. And it was just when I went to that person's supervisor, who was the city administrator, and asked her what was going on, it was like, oh, well, I'll have a talk with her.
Yeah.
She was aware of it. She knew she was doing it, and it was okay. And to me, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, well,
It's unfortunate.
I think having a policy could be helpful, but let's grab some policies that was requested from other communities that have gone past COVID. Again, hopefully we'll never have that come back in our lifetimes, but have policies, flexible work policies that are in place now so that council can look at it, that HR can recommend, and if council is okay with it just being adjustments in our current code, or if a new policy with the full penalties and I guess other restrictions could be brought forward. Again, this is a work session so that we can hear the comments and feedback and then come back. And I think grabbing some other policies is probably a good next step.
Blaine, in the meantime, if you have some common sense flex time that you want to pass along to one of your report directs, it's fine with me.
Good to know. Thank
Are
you.
you saying we don't have common sense?
What's that?
Are you saying we don't have common sense?
I said a common sense, flexible decision. Do you know what that means?
No, I'm stupid.
Okay.
Well, I have a couple of other things. I'm actually going to focus and just list the things on the right-hand side, and we'll come back to the last item. Other changes that we're proposing are overtime payment examples. So the last discussion, there were some questions brought up by council related to some confusing passages and the explanation. The advisement from our labor attorney is working through just a revision of that language, and we wanted to include charts within the examples so it's very easy to read and understand how overtime would be paid. Confidentiality policy update, the recommendation or request from council was to add a stipulation within the confidentiality policy within the handbook. Our handbook is pretty sufficiently covering those things, but we are going to add, we're proposing to add a short paragraph that explicitly recognizes when we have employees that are invited to sit in on confidential or executive information, that there's a standard for them to uphold that matches very closely to the policy approved.
Does that also go for things they view on print? They're printing things for people, or that should be held to the same level?
Yes, you'll be able to review the full content of that and make sure that it's in a written format too. Am I understanding you correctly?
Things that the employees view that are in print fashion, not just audio.
Yes.
Upheld to the same confidentiality level.
Yes.
You know, if they happen to view a report or a note or an email or whatever from somebody, they don't get to go tell everybody else what was in it.
Correct.
That's correct. Any information that's disclosed in the privileged closed session or in the closed session would be held to that confidentiality standard. It's the same standard that's been applied by resolution to the city council, and so that standard was then applied to the employees in the handbook.
Since you're talking about closed session, if a council, I know this is a little bit out of the context, but since you're here and you're the only one who can answer that question, if a council person wants to listen to executive session, it only has to be at City Hall, right? You cannot give them a flashcard to take home and listen to it, right?
I believe that is correct. You have the opportunity to listen to the closed session, but you can't leave with that confidential information.
Okay. Hopefully that person returns back what they took from here. Okay.
We have a couple of other items. The personnel evaluation form update references just the addition of our personnel evaluation form to section 16. There were parts of that form that were missing from our last iteration of the handbook, and so we would add that despite wanting to potentially make some changes to it. Its current form would be added to this handbook, as well as address the anniversary of employees getting their evaluation on a set cycle. We would add that language. Minor safety and equipment policy updates, adding a couple of revisions to use of a city vehicle, as well as personal use of like equipment or appliances, refrigerator, microwave, those types of things to ensure that our facility can accommodate any kind of electrical usage.
Could you repeat that one more time?
Say that again.
Yeah.
So we, in this building, we want to make sure that any use of additional things that we're plugging into our offices or common space can accommodate the facility's electrical load. It's really common in really most of the facilities I've worked in that spaces where you have connecting offices or rooms, if you're plugging in too many devices or all at once, it can stop a breaker or flip a breaker.
I've never heard of such a thing, but okay.
My understanding is it has occurred here, and so we just want to...
Because we can do things the right way with electricity, yeah.
Well, and we can prevent that if there's just a quick evaluation and saying, yep, we should be able to manage that. Go ahead and put in your little mini fridge or your microwave or something like that if that's what
How
people
you
are
manage
choosing.
that? Like how you...
Yeah.
Do you have like an equipment that tells you how much volts or how much electricity you're using?
Yes. So the expectation would be if employees are bringing their personal equipment, that they would have that information available, and basically we would make sure that someone trained in our building facilities takes a look at it to make sure that it's not going to overload a circuit.
So what happens if certain employees, they're okay with bringing stuff and other employee wasn't able to do it because of the electricity. So we'll say to this one, you're okay, you're good to have your coffee machine or your, fan, and the other employee will say no to them because
It's,
Can I step in just for a quick second? The main problem we have is with space heaters. They draw the most voltage from, or power amperage from the circuit, and that has a tendency to blow our circuit breakers. But you can tell based on the back of a heater or whatever appliance you have how much amperage is drawing, and then you got to see we check with our building department and see what circuits, how many circuits or outlets are on that circuit to see how many devices are plugged in and whether that circuit's going to pop when we plug that device in. But it's generally the space heaters that people
would that go for fridges as well?
Yeah, anything that draws amperage, we have to check to make sure. Because again, it's not just, you don't just have one circuit per each outlet. An outlet can be several outlets that have circuits, so you have to look at what's being hooked up to that particular circuit. And if it's too much of a draw, then so you can actually tell one employee, well, you got the same heater, but we got too many things on this particular circuit. You can plug it in, but it have to be over here or something like that. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking at how much load you're putting on a particular circuit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which item are we speaking to?
sure. This is the safety and equipment policy updates.
What
Number 9.
Okay.
Yes, it would be, number 9.
under memo.
So this would be added to section 9, safety and equipment use. It'd be its own separate,
Is there more detail to that number 9?
yes.
Yeah.
So
All I'm saying is what
we
they
have a very short drafted language I can read to you if there's any feedback.
Why wasn't that included in the packet?
We opted to give this broad overview with the intent to give you all the written policies. I didn't want to, have our time or the attorney's time going into great depth if there are things that council's not supportive of even introducing.
Well, it's hard to come up with an
Sure.
opinion on something without all the information prior to
Understood.
review it. So I'm not going to be able to, this is going to take up
Yeah.
just as much time or more versus if we had it already to read over and have questions ready.
Understood. Well, it would be, that paragraph would be provided to you and, when we return.
This particular policy or provision is basically a practice of the city that is just being put in writing so that all employees have the right direction and instruction as to how they can use or bring in these personal appliances, and before installing them, just making sure that it's okay.
We're putting another kitchen in the basement, something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
We have a fridge.
This is just so
we're years
there's
behind.
Probably not a good idea.
Oh,
We had that.
Imagine that.
oh goodness.
I'm unaware of a kitchen going into the...
I was going to say, is
That was
there?
before you.
So, okay.
Oh,
It was
goodness.
right under Niagara Falls.
Okay. I will wrap up
Can
by...
I ask
Yes.
you one thing?
Sure.
With what you guys are pointing out here, like number 5, clocking in and out, section 4.2, 4.8,
Yes.
it would be helpful to have those current sections and what you're proposing to change, because it's almost impossible to make a decision based on
Sure.
what I'm looking at.
Sure. Go ahead.
So these provisions in particular really require the city council direction before we make any revisions to the personnel manual. And so this item was saved for last
Yeah.
because this is something that requires city council direction before we draft any changes to the policy. And then after we get some direction from the city council, we'll put that in writing consistent with the direction that we get. But with respect to the workday, there was some discussion at the last work session regarding the allowance for accommodating a different hours for a workday. And so before we make any changes, we wanted to get the specific direction from the city council as to whether or not, the policy can be amended so that the work hours can be altered at the discretion of either the director or whatever is being proposed.
Right. Is there essentially a desire to keep the language as is, where it permits a director to adjust the workday schedule? Is it something that would need to be raised beyond a director level, or, is that at a point in time where city council wants to prescribe a particular direction on the workday? My understanding is it was adjusted in prior handbooks to this version.
I have a version of it right here, the
Okay.
previous one.
Okay.
So,
This is the current language here, and this is the only language I pulled out of the current book because I expected that people would want to read it.
Well, we're still pending from last meeting. There was not good clarification about it, but
Okay.
it reads, I mean, you know about units, so. It's, I just want all the staff to be treated equally, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's only fair that if we're not picking on nobody, if certain departments are allowed to do this, that
Yeah.
everyone else should be allowed to do it.
So, and this is my interpretation of the policy, that it would or should allow each of our departments that are here and operating the ability to change the workday as the policy directs. We always want to provide service, for all of our open hours. So, departments should not be permitting this if there's no one in their department there to cover this. I think, there's at minimum one or more staff people in each of our responsive city hall departments, as well as public works, more than one individual that this could apply to. And so we do have discretion to implement this if we all want to work together. My discussions with department heads about this has been that they are open to a coordination of allowing for this, just at least to make sure at least one person in each department is there and able to serve the public. But if there are other interpretations or this is being read differently, then, we can make clarifications.
Well, I'm taking it from the union contract.
Sure. Oh, that's what you have, okay.
And if you might want to look at, have the attorney look at it and read it. Or it states clearly that our hours of operations from 4 to 8:30, public works and what other department, the police, building department and water, they can start at 7
Yep.
till 3:30. It's very clear right there, and I highlighted it for you.
Yes.
So that provision is only applicable to those employees that fall under that collective bargaining agreement. What our personnel policy says is only that you have an 8.5-hour workday. It doesn't have those hours of work identified. So as written, it's allowed for
Right.
that flexibility to take place with respect to those employees that are non-union employees. But you have other unions, not just the public works unions, and those employees would be governed by the provisions that fall under their specific collective bargaining agreement. So this is the standard that you're reading from the collective bargaining agreement that applies to all public works employees. So those that are in a collective bargaining agreement would not be afforded any flexibility
No,
with
it
respect to that
says
work.
also,
There are additional clerical
there's
employees
also clerical, if you can read it,
one
please. Or if you want me, I
Okay,
can
so
read it
all
loud for you.
are
Right,
within
so
that.
they would be governed by whatever the terms of the collective bargaining agreement are with respect to their work hours and work day.
I just am a little confused because I thought at one point we set the hours of operation.
Correct, we did.
And people were supposed to work those out. And when they got hired for a job, those were their hours. I guess I'm totally confused as to why now all of a sudden people aren't wanting to work the hours of the job they were hired to do. I mean, if we tell people that these are the hours that we're open, these are the hours you're coming in, we shouldn't be limiting them to only one employee who may or may not have the answers because the other two employees decided they wanted custom hours. I'm just really kind of lost at how this all came about. Because I know in the work I worked in my life, when I applied for a job, they told me what my hours were. I didn't come back to them later and say, hey, I'm kind of thinking, I'd like to change my hours. I'm not a morning person. I'd like to come in about 10. I don't understand how this happened or why it would happen when this is a public building here to serve the public and it's open these certain hours and the people here to work should be working those hours.
And so
And
that's why it's
again,
being.
if we want to allow this policy to change, then we should allow it to all staff. You can't pick and choose.
And, or clarify the policy. So exactly what you're saying, Alderperson Oberlin, if you want to have the established work hours be the work hours for all employees, then we would provide some clarification in the employee handbook so that it would be clear to those non-bargaining unit employees what those hours of work were that were established. So this was definitely a big topic at our last, city council work session, and so we're here to, get the consensus.
Correct, but we didn't have the policy. Now I brought it, so.
So are you recommending that we match the
I'm not
the bargaining
recommending, I just want to make
unit
sure
policy?
since some staff were upset.
Okay.
And they came to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they came to anyone else, that everybody will be treated equally.
Okay.
And I think Chris feels the same way for her department.
Okay.
It's not fair for certain people, come at certain point time when others, they have to follow the policy.
So we have to be careful. So we're in
Right.
union negotiations with the local 150. If union employees are talking to council, trying to step outside of our...
Some of them are not union.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but if union employees are trying to negotiate directly with council compared to at the negotiations...
Nobody's negotiating, Blaine. You're twisting the words. It's just a comment. How come some employees are allowed to do this and some are not? And if this is our policy, we're not interfering with the union negotiation. So let's not twist the words in here. And I've came to you about this about 9 months ago, and then I went to Ashley the same thing because we didn't see any changes, and it keeps being put on hold.
Well, I wouldn't say it's being put on hold. It's actually been brought before council to talk about, it's already set in the union contract, and now we're trying to get clarification for our non-union employees. If each council member wants it to either mirror or strengthen what is in the union contract and mirror that for our non-union employees, this would be the time to do it.
I'm just confused as to what happened to the policy we set up that said we were open these hours and the people would work these hours. Where'd that go?
So when you guys set the current personnel manual, you put this provision in or approved this provision. Ashley nor I were here when this provision got put in there. But this provision allows some flexibility for our non-union employees. And council, when you approved that personnel handbook at that time, I believe the last one was updated in 2024. I don't know what it stated before that, but this is the current one. It affords this flexibility.
I have one comment
Sure,
on this,
yeah.
looking at this.
Yep.
It says full-time employees generally be scheduled for an 8.5 hour day. Why is there a 60-minute meal period? It should be 30.
My guess is from previous
Yeah, because they
revisions.
used to work, they were here for 9 hours.
Yeah. So
And they're no longer here 9 hours, it's 8.5, so it should be 30-minute meal period.
Yep, or it should be 9 hours. So
Right,
again, neither
exactly.
Ashley nor I nor Melissa drafted this language. This is the current language that is there, and that's why it's here for comments and discussion with council.
It should also say unpaid meal break. It's unpaid, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
It's not specified in there. I'm just, it's a technicality, but it should be in there.
Well,
But if shouldn't be 60 minutes unpaid if they're here 8.5 hours.
Correct. It would either need to be 30 minutes of non-paid
Or 9 hour day.
9 hour and then 1 hour of non-paid.
Breaks.
Correct.
Correct.
Do they get any other breaks during the day?
I
Yes.
believe there's
15.
15-minute breaks.
Is that in there?
It's not in this section. There is a separate section that's currently called break and lunch periods. And so that calls for each department head shall establish a reasonable meal period
That's,
and 2
Reasonable.
break periods of no more than 15 minutes each workday. It does specify that the 2 15-minute breaks are paid time, but they're expected to be ready to call back at any time. What we're recommending as part of our adjustment to this is that that reasonable period is specified as typically 60 minutes, but no less than 20 minutes. So those are where it's,
Or to
Has to be
provide
specified.
consistency, right?
Yeah.
This provision that we're looking at here.
yeah.
Can they combine their break times? Like instead of taking 15 in the morning, 15 in the afternoon, or half-hour lunch, can they combine their break times or lump their break times with lunch or whatever?
No, there's a
Gotta
provision
punch
that
out for them.
says they can't do that. They can't use those break times to elongate their lunchtime. Those break times are paid break times under the law. If you take that 15 minutes amount of time, that's considered, de minimis enough that you would still pay that employee. So I believe there is, they're not supposed to do that. Like, they're not supposed to shorten their workday with their lunch or break time or
That
do
was my
anything like
next
that.
question.
Yeah.
No, okay. Just wanted to make sure on that it's clear, as to how the break time and lunch period and combining or not, because there's places where I've heard people can combine their
Yeah.
break time together. If they want to take a half hour in the morning, they let them, or if they want to take the half hour in the afternoon, or if they want to take it with their lunch, they can do it. I'm wanting to know what our current policy says as to what can be done.
And, just so you know, I was correct on the shortening their workday.
Yeah.
But with respect to their lunch period, they can tag on to their lunch
It's the
period
current.
according to the policy now. So if the council wants to keep that, that's fine. If you want to change that so that they
That they
would
cannot
take a
combine
full
it.
hour and be paid for a half hour if your lunch period, that 30-minute lunch is not paid.
Aren't employees required to punch out for lunch?
Yes.
So how would they punch in and out if they're attaching
They-
paid break time to an unpaid lunch time?
Yeah, if that's the case, in my past iteration, you'd have to verify the timesheet essentially to make sure that it is reflective of the unpaid time versus a paid break time, and you can only really do that by the clock in, clock out verification. So I'm sorry if that wasn't clear.
So if they're taking an
there's no-
hour, potentially an hour and a half, or an hour, if it's an hour, half hour unpaid, half hour paid together,
Correct.
and they want to leave the building for an hour lunch, how do they punch back in after a half hour?
They wouldn't be able to. You have to punch back in, and with the understanding
hour.
that that's, yeah.
And then make some kind of note?
Yeah, there would be notes. I believe there's notes in time clerk. Okay. Yeah, the understanding, so,
Didn't you say, when you read something a little earlier, that they were supposed to be available to come back to work during their break if needed? What did you read earlier?
yes. It says in our current policy, the 2 15-minute break times are considered paid working time, and employees are considered to be available for any assignment during a break period.
there's-
Okay, well, how can they do that if they're gone?
That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
this
If
is
they're
the-
out of the building, that's not.
This is the problem with
Yeah.
these different,
Yep.
it has to be cohesive,
Yeah.
and it has to make sense, and it doesn't make sense, and there's so many things that contradict other things, and this is the part of the problem, and that's why people just do whatever they want because they can find an excuse if they look hard enough. You have to have it clear and concise, and if your breaks are paid, that means you need to be available if something comes up, and you can't do that if you're taking hour lunches, at Pizza Hut or whatever.
Home Goods.
That's correct. So Should we,
Sorry.
is the council ready to give some consensus on
Right.
some of these items so we can draft the policy according to the direction
Right.
of the city council? With respect to the actual hours of work, which are not specifically established in the handbook as they are, as you see in collective bargaining agreements,
Right.
would we like to set specified hours of work in the employee handbook?
I have it quoted here.
Thank you.
And if not, the other option would be to have, Ashley, myself, and the attorney come back with recommendations with each one of these, so you guys have
Right.
actual policies saying, here's our current policy and here's our staff recommendation. Again, neither Ashley nor I created this personnel handbook. We have a new attorney also reviewing. Again, this has been revised and revised almost every other year. Our hope is actually to, they've spent a great deal of time going through the whole book to get this updated. So annual updates will be almost, very quick because they'll just be state and federal kind of changes that we really almost have to approve. So I understand this is a little bit more time at this initial juncture. This occurs almost at every job I go to. We spend a little bit more time in the front end, but then every year afterwards, it's pretty quick because it's just state and federal changes.
Can you ask a quick question for me? For the staff that they feel they're not able to change their hours, can this will open to like a lawsuit for us? Like they feel that
No.
they're not.
I think I understand what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
with respect to, like, are you talking about maybe like a discriminatory practice?
Correct.
Some can
Correct.
have
Because
it,
they
some-
feel like,
Yeah.
how come certain departments and they cannot?
Yeah, that would not fall under any kind of unlawful discrimination because it's not targeted toward any protected class. You can have different work arrangements for different departments because of the way those departments operate. Just like in your collective bargaining agreement, there were different hours with respect to certain public works employees versus
But that's
the
different.
clerical.
It's already the bargain. That's how it's been written in the book. I'm talking about the employees that their hours are from 8 to 4:30. That's what I'm talking about.
So,
Even
So the
here,
employees that they're
you
supposed
know,
to work from
specific
8 to
job
4:30, that they come earlier, they change their schedule.
yeah.
The rest of the employees are feeling
Yeah, as long
Not
as
treated
there's
equally.
a objective, not a legal work-related reason to change those hours, the management is allowed that discretion to be able to make those accommodations. So if one employee gets their work hours changed because of a work-related reason for operations of the city, that's not an illegal practice. And that does not subject the city to any kind of discrimination
Is it-
liability.
I'm sorry.
Well, hold on, I have one more question on
Okay.
that. So the city have done a policy in the past that work hours are from 8 to 4:30, and that group falls under those hours, since they're changing the time without the council approval. Is that okay?
That wouldn't be illegal discrimination. Whether that's okay, it sounds like that there may be a practice of not following the policy, which is why we're bringing it to the attention. We want to make sure that we're doing everything now, and so that this administration is now, following the direction of the city council. But would that equate to illegal discrimination? No. A simple failure to follow the policy, as long as it was for valid work-related operational reasons, would not then,
But it's
subject.
still failing the policy of not following the hours.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we have any instances, because I was just listening to what she was saying, where
Sure.
a person would need to come in at hours 8 to 4:30, they would need to come in at 7 o'clock because there's nothing going on here at 7 a.m. Is there?
Well, the only thing, if there is some type of, this speaks to me on two ways, right? Either out of the ordinary circumstances where we would want to alter everyone's schedule potentially. It's not been typical for us even when we're responding to kind of emergency situations, but that might be a point in time where we, for a set period of time, alter schedules for employees to say, we really need you here early, we're responding with public works and public safety. Their schedules are different than the city hall, rules and time frames. We want to make sure we're prepared before people come in the door or whatever the case is. Another instance may be operational in certain periods of time in a quarter or a month where there's a set issue that needs to get done. If there's an overabundance of utility shutoffs, for example, is there a reason to come in when Public Works is also there early and work through some things, have a meeting, walk through whatever that data and information is among staff before the doors open to the public? It's just a couple
Our
of
inspectors
examples.
might be another one, so
Building
there are
inspectors.
different inspectors in the building department. A lot of the trades are working before 8 o'clock, so they might start at 7. So there are different examples that we could give you.
I was asking just out of
Sure.
curiosity because
Yep.
I've been here for a little while.
It's
I know some people get kind of leniencies that others don't. I just want to make sure we're not targeting anyone.
We always want to tie it back. If this is the policy and we continue to keep it, it should be for specific job-related reasons. It shouldn't just be a regular schedule just because, right? And we want to make sure that if there's a business reason for our staff to come in early, then it's allowed by the current policy. So, but if the kind of the will of the council at this moment is to, return, did I hear any consensus for whether we would like to change this? We want us to come back with some examples. What say you on this item?
Because based on, I think I heard what the attorney was saying, some of this stuff could have been done by decision of management without council consent. So I'm kind of confused on why all of this comes to the council when, managers have to have some cojones and make a decision that may not be popular. I do understand that the structure of it needs to be approved by the council, but shouldn't those recommendations come to us, what it is and what you're proposing, and then we make a decision on what it's going to be, as opposed to we're going through this back and forth right now with this. In the world I worked in, that's the way it was done. So I'm trying to figure out why is it so different, right now.
The actual employee handbook is something that does have to be approved by the city council, as you recognized. I ensured that this topic was brought forward to the city council today because of our last discussion at the work session, because it was a topic that I thought was important to the city council, and we wanted guidance first. But if the guidance now is that we'll propose clarifying language within this within the handbook, we can do that as well. And I'll get the recommendation of the administrator and the assistant administrator in drafting a policy for ultimate council consideration. But this particular section was brought forward at my request. I ensured that the topics that we discussed at last work session were brought forward here today.
I think I agree with Alderman Jefferson. You heard concerns at the previous meeting, so I would have thought that maybe based on what you were hearing, the administration could have come up with a revised policy that address some of those concerns and maybe take at least a first attempt at rewriting the policy, bringing to us for discussion and comment, and maybe tweaking it one way or another. But we're not here every day to know how a city, all the different departments operate and what hours are best for any of the certain departments. Some of us probably know that better than others. But I believe that the employees that are here, that are frontline representatives to residents, whether it be at the window or on the phone, should be here and present during the hours that we're open to provide those services. If you're here leave at 3 o'clock, that's one less person that could be at the window for another hour and a half. But I just don't see it as a council's place to basically come up with word for word what this policy comes out to be in the end, because ultimately there are going to be employees that are not going to be happy with it. Because either you're saying the ones that were able to adjust their schedules are no longer allowed to do it, which may happen, or, the flip side is the people that are saying that it's not fair that they can't adjust their schedules, they're still not going to be able to adjust it because everyone can't leave at 3 o'clock or 3:30. And I really don't like that it ultimately will come down to council's decision rather than department heads or managers that manage these employees. And managers have to make hard decisions, and their employees are not always going to like them. But I don't really appreciate the fact that it's going to come down to this was a council decision, and managers could throw up their hands saying, I had nothing to do with it, this was a council. And that seems to happen a lot. And I really think that a lot of the legwork on a lot of this type of discussion on policy is really should be done outside of council's presence. I appreciate if you want us involved, and ultimately if you need us to approve something, but bring us some kind of rough draft of what you would like us to read, and we could start a discussion based off of that. Not just, clearly the what's up there on the screen is it's useless. It's filled with loopholes and ambiguity and no detail, so anyone could pick that apart. But certainly I think that there would be the ability from our managers and administrators to come up with something between that and what we ultimately want to implement. But I think as a service, as a public service, whether staff are union or non-union, the city should have the ability to change schedules based on operations of the city. Is that not allowed, or is there anything in the CBA that says that, other than I understand public emergencies, water main breaks, everyone can't say, sorry, I can't come in. But I just look at things like where we have a weekend event, city event, and everyone's schedule is Monday through Friday. We don't have anybody working on weekends. And if we call them in on a scheduled event that we know about months in advance, it's either overtime or you're relying on volunteers to do it, which we shouldn't always have to. It's great and appreciated. But again, the ability to adjust schedules based on operational need, whether it's union or non-union, should be the discretion of the city.
So, got a few things to unpack here. So with our union contracts, we would have to negotiate that. In our current Local 150 contract that has our public works and some of the other employees that we're talking about, we don't have that flexibility. With our non-unions, we do have that flexibility. We could ask for that flexibility with our upcoming negotiations. So it's not to say that we can't get it, but that would be something that we need to negotiate with the union. Our draft policies, happy to work. I think where Ashley was coming was our current attorney's cost is $275 an hour, and so to have her draft 10 policies, even if 1 hour per policy, could cost a big deal of money. So on this particular policy, since there were comments from council, she was hoping to get some guidance. Again, happy to have Ashley and myself, again, pull other communities. I've helped write 3 or 4 different personnel manuals for other municipalities in Illinois. We can come back to council with that and then hand it over to the attorney. We were just trying to, wisely use the attorney's time. We can also draft policies that do empower the department directors, do empower the supervisors, and empower the management team, myself, Ashley, and others in the future. So if council just wants to make the policy decisions, we're happy to bring policies that would give us the ability to make decisions so that it isn't just on council. Council can set the policy, and then we're happy to play within the parameters given.
Our finance director has been trying for a while.
Glenn, you
sorry.
have something?
Thank you, guys. I want to address this because I feel a lot of this is directed at my department. When I adjusted the hours or working hours for my department, it was purely, I guess, selfish for my reasons for my department. I didn't consider other employees, other departments. What I looked at is how to get the best performance for my department. So when you guys talk about there's nothing that no work is done between 7 and 8, well, there's no customers at that point in time. But my staff, half my staff, comes in at 7 o'clock to get a lot of work done. So whether it's AP, payroll, utility billing, preparing the shutoffs, that's uninterrupted time that they get to perform their work that they don't have the rest of the day because they have to man the desk. Now, I know there's other departments within City Hall that don't have to man a desk, but my department has a lot, and there's 4 people to juggle those things. But it's an interruption every day. I don't know if you ever tried to work on something that takes concentration, but if you have to get up and stop every 5 minutes to go answer a customer thing, it's very difficult to do. So they appreciate that time where there's no customer service. Now, I told my staff to do this. We have to maintain the city's hours because City Council set the hours for City Hall, so we have to maintain that. So there is a full staff from 8 to 3:30. So we do have that 1 hour that is only half staff. It's at the end of the day. However, I told them, I said, look, when we have the bill pay periods, when that closes out, everybody comes in to pay. So on those days that people are coming in to pay, there is no early shift. Everybody works from 8 to 4:30 on those days because we need that time, because everybody comes in at the end of the hour. So again, this is all designed to make my department work the most efficient. So they come in early to get their work done uninterrupted, and on the days that's required for customer service, they stay late. They do not come in early on those days so they can answer this stuff because there are long lines out there. We have all our windows going. I mean, that's the whole point. So the idea is to make sure that we're operating. This is my suggestion, my design. It was not because the employees wanted this. I did this to get the most work out of them. So that was the decision. So if I did something wrong, let me know. But I think I'm running the department very efficiently to get the most for the city. That's the whole purpose for that.
Thanks for explaining, but it wasn't directed to you personally or to your staff personally.
Yeah, I
Just
know, but
looking. But with that said, since your staff has to do minutes, and that needs a lot of concentration, especially taking executive session, listening to all these, it's hard, especially getting up. Maybe your staff can do the same thing, rotate. Someone will come at 7 till 3:30, and some, as long as you have somebody there till 4:30 to answer the phones and the door. So I think it's only fair for everybody. If this is your department, if this is one employee who would like to do the minutes before all the interruption.
Okay, does anybody on city council have a problem with staff putting together recommendations that were brought up tonight for review from city council at a future work session? To my left, anybody?
No.
To my right?
No.
Okay, so Blaine, you have your direction?
Thank you.
Melissa,
Thank
you have
you.
your direction?
Thank you, all of you.
Ashley?
All right, I'll bring you something up.
Thank you for coming today because it's always easier to see, talk in person.
Thank you for
Appreciate
that.
it.
Okay, next item for discussion, Blaine?
Mayor, I'm going to come up to the podium as well.
Thank you.
All right, as I think Ashley's passing all those out, I have one, so. Yeah. So our intern is going to be talking about the specific compensation components, but for this overall discussion, I do feel a few things are kind of intertwined, so I wanted to kind of go through a few slides for us to have this kind of context, and then I will be introducing our intern who used the data that our administrative assistant, Maribel, put together, and then our intern then contacted other municipalities and used other resources. I know the IML has a tool, and there are a few other tools that allow us to get some of the data for our elected official positions. So why is this discussion occurring? Again, I'm going to be talking about the meeting schedule, and our current positions for elected positions are tied into per meeting compared to a compensation that is set monthly or kind of an annual compensation. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. So through my few slides, I'm going to be talking about the meeting schedule, the Open Meetings Act requirement, and compensation. Again, I feel that these issues are intertwined and do affect the other. So when we look at our current meeting schedule, we have weeks 1 through 4, potentially a week 5, depending on the month. We have a council meeting, a work session, a council meeting, a work session, and potentially an additional work session or a special meeting. So typically, there's 4 regular meetings. Sometimes there's a 5th. What I'll be proposing for council's consideration in the future is, and when we're in the context of compensation, is breaking away from a model that is per meeting, but looking at a monthly stipend model. Again, with an updated schedule, and I'll note here, staff is proposing to delay the implementation of changing the schedule all the way until May 1st of 2029, so it would not impact. So our current elected officials that still have 2.5 years left, because if we reduced the number of meetings and they're paid per meeting, there would actually be a reduction if we implemented that sooner. So with the proposed schedule, what I'll be looking at is a schedule of a council meeting, a work session, a council meeting, and then reserving, so we would not be filling that 4th week or that as needed, but those could potentially still occur. Again, some of the benefits for having a regular 3 meeting per month compared to a 4 meeting would be more implementation time, more focused discussions, a reduction in redundancy and greater staff efficiency. Staff efficiency and productivity here. So currently, what staff is doing for our meetings are preparation for a meeting, preparation for a meeting, preparation, so we got meeting preparation, there's this schedule. That kind of hamster wheel that what we're doing. The proposed is preparation, meeting, implementation, meeting, completion, and then we start that cycle over again. So what's the key difference? Again, it's more time implementing what council's direction is and less time preparing for recurring meetings.
Sorry, Blaine.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
This information regarding meeting schedule and,
Yes.
and so forth, what you're going over now?
Yep.
Was that in our packet provided on Friday?
No, so this was the stuff that I listed in our packet saying that if time permits, I'm going to be talking about the scheduling, so.
What we were handed just now?
Correct. And again, I'm going over this for context. The information that was emailed to council over the weekend is regarding the compensation.
Right.
But if we don't have, I guess, a context of potentially thinking about the scheduling of a change in schedule, that could influence council's discussion regarding the compensation.
Well, I understand that. Why couldn't we have gotten this on Friday as well?
I created this 2 hours ago. So I couldn't provide it to you on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I've been working through our process to see. I also had a conversation this afternoon with the clerk to see if even reducing a schedule would be feasible or practical. And again, we have all the way until the end of October 28th, as I'll be noting here in a moment with a time frame. So by having this at tonight's meeting, we have about 2 full months to have the discussion.
So we had like a year we've been asking for this to be on discussion, and I agree with Mark. And Tina was a big vocal about stuff where it's handed to us right at last minute in the meeting. We don't get the chance to review it.
Sure.
You know, it's already 8:45.
Yep.
So that means we gotta rush through all this. We have 2 staff members here that, I don't know if our finance has anything on his agenda for tonight. He'll be sitting through this. Our other director will be sitting here through all these discussions so he can do one report. And that's how I feel. It's always time crunch, and we have to make a fast decision. We'll be waiting for this for a year.
Yeah, so tonight there isn't a decision on this. This is a discussion, and so I wanted to present this so that council would have, again, up to 60 days to discuss this particular portion. Again, I'm not expecting council to, there's no vote. There is several other meetings between now and when a decision needs to be made. But if there was never a conversation or thought or even discussion with council about adjusting the time schedule, I think council would be missing an opportunity.
I have a lot of concern going from 2 work sessions to 1, just due to the fact that our work sessions run so long. And I don't know how we could accomplish what we do in 2 work sessions in 1. I know you have the preparation, current, and proposed, but if you're preparing for the amount of items that would have showed up in 2 meetings and putting them in 1 meeting, then that preparation time for 1 meeting is going to take twice as long. And you know what I'm saying? You're not just simply getting rid of a meeting and everything that's prepared for it. You're going to have to squeeze the items that would have been would have made more sense to have in the second meeting. Now you're going to put them in 1 meeting. In some of our meetings, we don't get out of here already until 11, 12 o'clock. I have a hard time seeing that we're going to be able to accomplish the same amount of work in 1 meeting that we do now in 2, especially, you know, we're expecting a lot of growth. We're seeing it happening. That means more projects going to come in for approval, hopefully more developers are going to come in for discussions with council and feedback for development. I mean, I don't see the workload going down.
Yeah.
I see it increasing. Yep. So I don't really feel that there's logically in real life that 2 meetings shrunk down to 1, but in the same amount of time as 1 of those 2 meetings, how it's possible to accomplish everything.
Sure. So other communities like where I came from in Naperville actually only have 2 meetings, not what I'm proposing.
That's fine. To be honest, I don't care what anyone else does. I see what happens here in Crest Hill.
Great.
We have 2 work sessions a month.
Yep. Well,
Are they ever an hour or less? Very rarely. Are they ever 2, 3, 4 hours? Quite often. So unless we're going to eliminate some of the steps and some of the things that are coming to council and council just won't be involved in them, I don't see how logistically, time-wise, the same amount of work, the same things that we're accomplishing now in 2 meetings will happen in 1.
I actually think we'll get more done. So between now and 2029, we will have basically a cadence so that the meeting schedules and the meeting agendas won't be fluctuating. So instead of having 3 items and then 10 or 12 the next and then 4 items and then, kind of that uneven pattern, it would be set across the table. Again, looking at this being a few years out, this allows us to address what are those annual contracts to be multi-year contracts so that council is addressing the policies on items that are good for 2 or 3 years instead of bringing things back every year for just one item.
I think the amount of the work you're referring to as contracts that are 1 year or 2 or 3 years, I think that's
It's about 30% of council's annual work is items that could be multi-year contracts that we've been addressing on an annual basis. So
but how much time does it actually take to discuss those things versus plan
That's up to
unit
council.
development that comes in? There's just so many examples of things that come to the city that ultimately come before council in 2 meetings, unless there's going to be a different way of handling a lot of those things that they don't come to the council. I just have a hard time seeing 2 meetings getting shrunk into 1. I don't know am I the only one that's thinking?
No, I agree with you.
well,
I mean, on the surface, I agree with you, but I'd also like to hear what he has to present, because if we can become more efficient, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
I'm happy to conclude. I just have a few more slides, and then we'll be getting into the conversation for the compensation. And if council does not want to proceed looking at an adjustment in schedule, that is council's choice. For me, I do feel it's part of my responsibility to share with council my recommendation, and I do feel that we're not being as efficient as we can be. And again, the staff time and the productivity, I do think can be with a modified schedule. Again, not dropping down to 2 that other communities have, but since our history has really locked us in since 1960 to a 4 to 5 meeting schedule, I know that this is going to be a change. But if we don't start to have this conversation, at least tonight, it's going to be too late, and then it's 2 years, and then it's another, and so it's really looking at 4 years from this period of time. And so that's why I felt, again, even just a few hours ago before, to add this item for tonight's discussion. Again, time and staff productivity is the item that I was suggesting, and again, I see the key difference being more time actually implementing what council directs instead of preparing for recurring meetings. The next item, I am anticipating that our city attorney, along with other community attorneys, are advising their communities that the ad hoc committees are going to need to meet the Open Meetings Act. So my assumption is, as of January 1st of 2027, is all of our ad hoc committees will now need to meet the public notice, the public access, the agendas, the minutes, the record retention, as well as the Open Meeting Act's compliance. So key takeaways here is, as the ad hoc committees become fully subject to the Open Meetings Act, they are going to function very similarly to our city council meetings and to our work sessions. Looking at that, our current compensation structure, and again, I'm just focusing on one, and we'll have more of a conversation here in a few minutes as our intern walks through the survey information regarding each of the elected positions. Just looking at the compensation for the current council members, our current council for members earn $200 per meeting for the council meeting, $55 for a work session, and then $0 for the committee meetings. Typically, again, that would break out money-wise, as 2 council meetings would be $400, 2 work sessions would equate to $110, so that would be $510. If we did happen to have a 3rd work session, that would be an additional $55, so that would get us to $565. What I would be proposing for council's consideration with the new model and attendance would be proposing a monthly stipend, looking at a monthly stipend of $900, so that would equate to $10,800 annually. And again, as part of this would be attendance, so meetings that are missed for council meetings, there would be a deduction of $250 per meeting. Missed work sessions would be a deduction of $100 per meeting, and a missed committee meeting would be $50 per meeting. Again, instead of per meetings, this would be looking at a all-encompassing a monthly stipend that would cover all of the meetings, so our council meetings, our work sessions, committee meetings, constituent engagement, meeting preparation, community activities, researching various policies and review, etc. Last two slides, annually compensation, the comparison, again, this will be noted in a moment, the compensation comparison presentation that will go into detail for each of the elected positions. But just as an example, right now, our current calendar for 26 has our council member positions with the max of $6,340 for the year for each of the positions. The new proposed, or what I'm suggesting for council's consideration, would be the $10,800. Again, noting that the clerk and the treasurer's current max, again, utilizing the 2026 calendar as an example, the max for those positions is at $10,575. So that $900 per month is very close, equating to that. Looking at my final slide, which is the compensation and a meeting schedule, this is kind of with the transition time. We are currently in that 2026 window, so this is the time for council to be discussing. In addition, council would need to make a decision regarding either compensation and or a schedule before October 28th of 2026. Again, if that is voted and approved to change the compensation and or the schedule, the transition period would take place, but there would not be a change except for the 4 individuals that would occur after they're sworn in after May 1st of 2027. Again, through the proposal that I'm talking about with the schedule for our calendar for the meetings, that still wouldn't occur until May 1st of 2029. Again, May 1st of 2029, not 27, not 28, all the way until May 1st of 2029, so about 2.5 years from now. Again, at that period of time, I'd be asking prior, again, to the 180 days to move forward the council member, the other 4 positions, to the same schedule so that there would be the full stipend model, not on a per meeting schedule, but on an overall group. Again, I would recommend council to have a discussion regarding adjusting the council's schedule. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes. I have one, ordinance 1263.
Yep.
It's an ordinance that is with the respect to compensation of aldermen, and it reads the same for clerk, treasurer, mayor. They're all each separate, but it says here, from and after 2003, it has for each alderman elected in 2003 shall be paid $55 per city council work session or city council committee meeting. From and after May 1st of 2005, each alderman elected in 2005 shall be paid $55 per city council work session or committee meeting. And none of us have ever gotten paid for a committee meeting. But it's right here in the ordinance that we should get paid for a committee meeting.
Yeah,
and why is that? So why haven't we been getting paid? And should we get paid for how far back?
Yeah, I'm not aware that city council has had a committee meeting. The attorney can talk about that. I think what you're thinking of a committee meeting being is an ad hoc committee.
Well,
so those are.
You just sent the thing to me and Angelo here that we had a finance committee meeting. Wasn't it called the finance committee meeting?
Yes.
So it's saying committee meeting, and that's what it says here in the ordinance, that we would get paid for the committee meeting.
That is not, I mean, I refer to the attorney, but again, I've been here and my understanding is those sort of ad hoc meetings are ad hoc committee meetings and not meeting the definition, again, since 2005 all the way through.
Well, it's not stipulating ad hoc committee meetings. It's just saying committee meetings.
Well, annually, currently, the meetings, the committees that are set are ad hoc committees for 1 year.
But isn't ad hoc meetings like civil service?
No, that is the civil service is a commission, and so is the planning commission.
So, right, but those are ad hoc committees appointed by the people appointed by the mayor. That would make them ad hoc.
Those are actually through our code that those are set as actual commissions, not committees. So you have the planning commission and the civil service commission. Those are different than committees.
I'd like the city attorney to weigh in on this. Committee meetings are paid at $50, but they haven't been. If there's many committees across the council here, it doesn't specify ad hoc or not, just says committee meeting.
I wasn't here in 2005, so I have no idea what the heck this meant. I've not been asked to research the potential, back pay issue, but this is the first I'm hearing of it, so I honestly can't weigh in.
Well, I'm sure if
Could you look
any
into
of the
it?
employees of the city, they'd be getting it paid. And we would be told we would have to pay them. We've seen it happen many a time here, for an employee. Well, this is what it was done before, they should have got paid for this, or they should have got paid for that, and then we have to pay them. Here it's us, and it's saying, right here's the ordinance, I got it right in front of me, and I read it to you word for word, and it says committee meeting. Doesn't say anything else, it says just council committee meeting. Doesn't specify or say that it's a finance or, whatever, any other kind of committee we have here. It's not specified, it just says committee meeting, and there has been committee meetings, and we haven't gotten paid for them.
Again, I was not here in '05, similar to what the attorney was stating. I went back on our past practice, and we had not been paying elected officials for ad hoc committees, for meetings.
Well, then we ain't been following the ordinance here.
Again, I was not here from '05 through to June of 2025 when I started.
I think we might need.
Scott, can I ask you about this thing you handed us?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you say is whatever we vote on, the change, but you don't want the change to take effect until the second cycle.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
It would
all
be
right.
easier, I think, for, payroll, for, finance to have where everybody starts at the same time in 29.
Yep. Again,
Instead of trying to split it up and pay part of council one way and the other part of council another way, if we make it effective of May of 2029, this way everyone would get that raise at the same time in that pay schedule.
I don't disagree with that. However, I've been advised by council otherwise, and I'll allow council to.
Well, council can weigh in on it, but I'm just.
No, I'm sorry.
bringing it.
Our city attorney council.
Okay.
I've been advised by our city attorney that, again, if somebody, and I'll let him elaborate, that if somebody in the term can't be in office, so maybe now's a good time for you to jump in on that regard.
I mean, traditionally, it's done in the staggered way. You did it that way in 2005. The next election, the first raise kicked in, the next election took place thereafter. I'm not saying you can't do it that way. What I've advised is that's the way it's traditionally been done. And I think every community that we've ever had that's made raises, it's not been 4 years out for everybody at the same time. Again, if the council's decision or pleasure is to do it all at once, Scott, if the rest of the council wants to go along with it, I can take a look into it. I mean, I think that's probably
Well, it says
easier
it right here, I handed it to you, and that's from the IML, that it desired that all elected officials be on the same pay grade. A pay schedule could be adopted prior to the commencement of the term of any of the impacted officials that would have a future effective date that follows the provision of setting their compensation. In the previous example, an ordinance setting pay for all officials could be effective in May of 29, so there would be no difference, or there will be a delay.
Correct.
Right, so that can be done.
I didn't say it couldn't be done. I just said that traditionally, you did it this way in 2005. All my other communities have done it in a staggered way. If you decide not to stagger it,
Well, it'll be up to council to
it's the
decide
council's
that.
decision, yes.
Exactly, but it's an option. I'm just, putting it out there. If council wants to do that, fine. If council doesn't, and they want to have where we've been doing it like we've been doing it, where some are being paid one way and some being paid the other, that's fine. It would be up to council.
Where are you reading this from?
This here.
I had one question in regards to it, that's why I asked that. All this information, it's very nice and I appreciate it, but my question was, looking at the current salaries for the older people that's on this sheet, this amount seems to put us in a position where we should be. But if this is not going to go into effect until 2029, I think we need to adjust that alderman's salary, because most of these places get bumps all the time. And Crest Hill, unfortunately, as he just said, hasn't had one in 21 years. So if we don't institute this until 2029, that's going to take us to, what, how many years? Ooh, 20...
25.
25. Yeah, so perhaps we need to raise the stipend to accommodate the fact that if it's not going to take place for 4 years. Do you understand what I'm saying?
3 more years of lagging.
Yeah.
Yeah. The comparison or the recommendation, I think, are in today's market relative to other municipalities. But if it's not instituted for
2 to 4 years.
2.5
to 4.5.
3 years, then we want to be competitive, right? I mean, and comparable. So without, looking at 2.5 years from now, and unless you're gonna also propose, but I don't see it, any annual adjustment, increase due to inflation, COLA, whatever you want to call it.
I'm glad you asked that question,
CPI.
because I did ask our attorney to review the CPI adjustment, and I know he'll be able to, again, enlighten council on his research. And again, that's been some of the hard work that was put in over the last 9 months as we've been going through, looking at the comparable data and having the attorney's law office look at, are we able to build in an annual or even a per cycle adjustment or even a percentage adjustment, and those sort of things. I do think it's worth, so that the public can also see what council has been given, is the comparable information. I think there's maybe 8 to 10 slides that, again, between our administrative assistant and our new intern, I'll let her introduce herself. Again, I think this is the first time she's been actually on the front side of our council. She's been in the back room running the AV equipment several of our meetings, but she's put together a brief presentation, again, just showing where we stand currently with comparison to some of our neighboring communities. And then, again, the attorney has done some research on to the possible annual adjustments or percentages. So if you wouldn't mind putting kind of a pin on that one, allowing Shay to kind of just walk through her slides, and again, I'll just sit off to the side here.
And also, can we
Sure.
put a little note to come back to the committee thing Scott was talking about?
Sure, happy to do that. Yep.
Well, hello, council. I haven't met many of you one-on-one, but my name is Kishay. I am your city intern. I know I'm usually back there, but a lot of the times if you guys come in, I'm in the back office right next to Ashley. Over the last few weeks, I was given the task to look at a bunch of different municipalities and their compensation for their mayor, treasurer, alderpersons, trustees, village mayors, however you want to go about it.
And the clerk.
And the clerk, not to forget the clerk. Just a little background about this presentation. The information that is presented in here is based off the population. So we took the 4 largest towns, Joliet, Bolingbrook, Plainfield, and Romeoville, and kind of took them out of this for the simple reason is we wanted to be reasonable based on the size of where we sit population-wise, and we don't want to make sure it's right in the middle for where we sit as a municipality. You will also see that we have home rule versus non-home rule. 2 on there are made home rule through referendum, which is just a process of just signing and people taking that down to Congress. You will also see at the bottom that the information is based off of 24 council meetings and 28 work sessions. So the information that I calculated is based off of the whole calendar year of 2026. It's no meetings missed, just to keep that noted. This is a little bit of the population. This population, the information was gathered from July 1st of 2025. Highest is New Lenox, lowest is Minooka, and the average, about where we sit, is that 20,580. This is a breakdown of what our elected officials' monthly compensation is at this moment right now. As you will see, our alderpersons are making $400 monthly and then $55 per work session meeting. And then you will go down and you have our city clerk and our treasurer both making $766.67. And our mayor, including his liquor commission, is making $1,666.67. On top of that, they both all get that extra $55 for the work sessions. Now we're going to go into the compensation. One thing I want you guys to note is that these are estimated full annual compensations amounts. These are not just their base salaries. The second thing to note, the Village of Frankfort is also in the process of reviewing theirs as well. We spent a lot of time communicating back and forth, getting a lot of their information, and looking at some of the things that they are expecting to change too. So you will see they kind of sit a little lower than us, but they are getting ready to also make that jump to kind of come to the mean. First thing we'll look over is our mayor's compensation. As you can see, Minooka sits very low, and Lockport sits very, very high on this chart here. The average compensation is $19,713.43, and that's a year. The median is $19,150 for a whole year. I just would like to note, I think it was Mark who talked about it with the annual increase, the 2% or the CPI annual increase. Lockport and Shorewood both have those. They're used in here. On the chart that I've given you guys and you guys were given, you will also see that I think there are also 2 other municipalities who have a 2% annual increase as well on there. And that's only for their mayor and their alderperson. So the treasurer and the clerk do not get that annual increase. For alderpersons, you guys will see Crest Hill kind of sits very low on this list, where Shanahan, they sit the highest, and Minooka, they sit very, very low. The average is $8,361.42, and the median is $8,550 a year. When you come down to our clerk is sitting right at kind of like a little bit higher end. Shorewoods is very high. Minooka could not get an estimate because it's a full-time position, so they don't have like deputy and kind of a little smaller there, so they don't really have all those positions to kind of fill. But the average, $8,161.62. The median is sitting right at $6,000, as you'll see, as Mokina, Lockport, New Lenox, and Shanahan all have that. And then we come down to the treasurer. Our treasurer makes the most, sitting at $10,575, and Lockport is sitting at $2,000 a year. If you also look at the chart I gave you, there is one more municipality that is also making that $2,000. Everybody else has their financial director, so like for us, it would be our Glenn, holds the treasurer position. And then that would kind of end our slideshow. And open to any question, in the presentation, open to any questions.
You can also come to, I guess, the comments from the attorney in regards to the marked question in regards to the annual adjustment or the CPI or percentage. So, Attorney Stiff, if you want to comment on that.
Obviously, there are several communities that have built-in raises. The best that we could come up with is that it's obviously subject to possible challenge, because you would be obviously having raises voted on at this point that would take in effect each year during someone's term. I think you can make a counter argument as well, which is probably why these other municipalities have done it. So I can't tell you that it's ironclad. I can tell you that others do it, and I think that there's a defensible argument, but it's not, I guess, 100% bulletproof that it's not subject to challenge.
So does that address your question, Mark?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if there's 4 other municipalities doing it, I don't think anyone could.
And Joliet, I mean, Joliet's not on the list.
Unless you're
so that's
going to
another one that
challenge
is.
all of them, it would be, couldn't just pick one to challenge, right? The defense would be, these other four are doing it.
Well, a challenge of one could invalidate all of them. It doesn't have to be, whoever's deciding to challenge it could challenge one. It could be a class action of some sort as well. But as we know from the case that went to the Supreme Court, I mean, on the invalidation of our TIF, they made it so ours was invalidated, but then they changed the rules so none of the other ones across the state that did the same thing would be invalidated.
But there's not been a challenge of other municipalities doing it. That's
No.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball and can't say that they won't be. But thus far, those CPI/annual raises have been on the books for years and have not been challenged.
I believe Joliet's actually doing theirs as a percentage, if I remember correctly from the results. So compared to a consumer price index, they just did a flat 2%. So depending on if council wants to go where the majority of other communities that have a increase built in, the CPI seems to be the more common versus just a flat 2% increase. And I think there was the other question. I think Attorney Stiff's office is going to have to look into the question that Scott asked and the Darrell wanted to come back to in regards to the 2005 committee definition. I think they'll have to do some research onto the actual, probably the minutes from the meetings and what the intention, back then in 2005, what it was, if that can be ascertained, and then have a legal opinion on that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When you said earlier, help me here, about you get paid for 1 or 2 meetings, what happened with special work sessions when we have interviews and we call them special work sessions?
Yeah.
Special meetings?
Yep, I know Mike has also looked that up. I'm trying to remember what Glenn, if you remember where the special meeting cost was, or if you remember.
It was not
55.
I think it's still $55.
It's still 55. It's 55.
No, special meetings are more than that.
Yeah, well, work sessions are 55. If
Yeah.
we have a special city council meeting.
We have a special,
Council meeting is different.
special
Special
council
city
meeting.
council meeting?
Special work session, I thought.
Special meeting.
we did.
Well, there's two different types of meetings. Special
Okay.
council meeting.
Special
Higher.
meeting.
I think a special council meeting where you're actually taking action would be at the $200 level.
Exactly.
A special work session.
What happens
which
if
is-
something like that happens, comes up, because it does?
Again, under what the proposed, it would be covered underneath the overall monthly stipend. So if, again, what I proposed was the $900 would cover all meetings, all committees, the whole kind of, any work that council members are doing to prepare for these meetings, preparing for work sessions, preparing for council meetings, if they're meeting with constituents, if they're planning or attending different events, activities, any of the work that you're basically doing, you're getting compensated at that $900 amount. The majority of the research that Shay shared with me is most communities are breaking away or have broken away already from a per meeting to do a flat monthly component. I know in the past that when some communities have had issues with attendance, they've addressed that by having the deduction. So if somebody misses a meeting, that they get basically zapped a deduction. And that's where I suggested a deduction of $250 for the meeting, for a council meeting. That would be a regular or a special one. A $100 deduction for the work session, and then $50 for the committee meetings.
Will you still be eligible the way we have it right now? You missed 3 meetings, I think?
Yeah, so in the future, it would be the all-encompassing. So there's no, you get, if you miss it, you're just getting the deduction. So there's no longer an issue for finance. It's really easy on our attendance. the clerk will note that you're here or you're not. So if you're not here when finance is processing it, there's not a, do we need to get an absent, like an approved absence or anything like that? If you're not here, you're not here.
I
Just
think
getting
somebody
it
should be allowed to miss one or two.
In the chart regarding missed meetings, it says it's currently that the mayor and clerk are allowed to miss 4 and the aldermen are allowed to miss 2. I thought we were all the same. We were. Where'd that information come from?
If you look in the ordinance for Crystal, it says the mayor can miss up to 4, and the mayor can speak up to 4, can miss up to 4, but the alderman persons, they can only miss up to 2. And that was decided back in like
I don't remember that either.
2005. I can grab my
2005?
Oh, we changed that.
Yeah, we changed it.
We changed that.
That was changed.
updated one, the one that I was given that it was only 2 for now.
No.
Yeah, I got the ordinance pulled up now. It says you can miss up to 4.
4?
Yeah.
There you go.
See, he just said,
No,
Mark.
Glenn just said.
Two regular meetings?
I got the ordinance pulled up right now.
That's why we have him there to
Section
investigate that.
2.12, .010, paragraph B, persons, blah, blah, blah. Aldermen should be allowed 4 paid absences per year.
4. Yeah.
So again, I don't know if we need to look at the code to see if that potentially could influence pay versus an ordinance change. Again, I was not here back in 2005, or when does that state when the ordinance?
This last update, I'm trying to see if I got a date on here. It looks like it was 93.
I know we had discussion.
93, 2002, there's 96. It's been updated several times since.
I know we had discussions on the 4 absences. What does that mean?
Yeah.
4 of any meeting or a combination of work session? And I think somewhere along the line, I think this is since you've been here, Blaine, that we came up with a dollar amount.
Well,
like $800 or $900 total for the year.
I think that was Glenn, that was a policy before I was here that Glenn, I think, recommended that the maximum could be.
There was a work session back in February. We took a vote on this. The work session, although it never went to the council meeting, but I just considered it guidance.
Right.
And you're allowed to have 4 absences. And what we allow you to do is this, if you get paid, let's say 2 of those absences early in the year at their work session rates, and then you took 2 more council meetings, you can trade the other 2 work sessions for 2 more council meetings, and we'll just pay you the difference is what we'll do.
I could have sworn the final decision we made was 4 meetings, and it was the first 4 you missed.
We because of the way it's been past practice, and that's where we came up with that meeting when I had that thing, it was discussed. It was not 100% vote, but it was, the majority said that this guidance was okay to swap it out if you want, so to speak.
So is that in the policy, or
No, it's not in the policy.
Not by ordinance or anything?
Not by ordinance, it's just by guidance, because the ordinance doesn't specify that.
When this came up, the decision, or the recommendation was you couldn't change the ordinance now because the ordinance, you're all sitting. It could have affected your pay. So we didn't want to change the ordinance because it would have been a potential deduction or reduction in pay. So Glenn came up with a guidance that interpreted how the absences, still 4 absences, but it was determined how you could apply those, whether they were applied first to the council meetings or versus the work sessions. And Glenn's guidance was submitted, and that's what you approved, was that he would, going forward, use that guidance when he was issuing pay for missed meetings that were excused. And that's the guidance that we've been under thus far. We did not change the ordinance because, again, you have to do that 180 days before anybody that's going to be taking office. So that's the guidance that has been the city's operational guidance, I guess, since we had that discussion. And I can't remember exactly when that was, but it was
It was in
Blaine.
February, I believe, 2004, or 2025, 24, 25.
So is that where that number came up with? I didn't imagine that. It was $800 or $900 total for the 4 absences?
Yes, 800. That's the maximum you can get, the maximum for council meeting.
If you missed work sessions, but you also missed 4 regular council meetings, you could choose to apply it to the regular council meetings and then therefore get the 800 versus 110 if you missed 2 work sessions and then 2 regular meetings. Because the ordinance is actually written that, and I can't quote you the language now, but it's somewhat confusing, and we talked about whether we could actually change it because, it's not within 180 days of the new term. So we determined that if the guidance was what the council could live with, that was a fair, I think, interpretation of what whomever meant when they wrote this back in 2005 or whatever the date of the original ordinance.
Question. We got where, with this new proposed compensation model and tenants, could we have where, like, you could miss 1 council meeting, 1 work session, and 1 committee meeting and still get paid?
Again, this was just a recommendation. Council sets, so you guys can give me, so, I'm happy to answer questions.
I would think that would make it easy instead of saying 3 meetings.
Sure,
This
one of
way it
each.
spells it out. You
Sure.
get 1 of each where you would get paid for
One
it.
of each, I like that.
Can I ask a clarifying question on,
So one was.
from this Excel? I just want to make sure this isn't a typo, but Plainfield was like double our population. They get paid $100 per meeting? Is it just any meeting that you know of, or is it?
But Plainfield is not on our list. This is, you're talking about,
Oh, it's on the list.
you're talking about this one.
It's on
Yeah.
this list, yeah.
On the spreadsheet.
I'm just wondering, it
Yeah.
seems really low compared to a lot of the other communities.
Plainfield does get paid $100 per meeting. So when I called and I spoke with, I forget her name, my apologies. We talked, and at first when I read it, I did not think it was right, and so I called to get a little verification, yes. But I guess their council is also feeling the same way of that needs to be.
They're trustees.
Yeah, they're
they're
trustees. Their trustees are feeling that kind of needs to be
They're
changed.
going to change that.
So they're going to go ahead and probably, most likely revisit that.
Well, as I said before, because this is not going to take effect till possibly 29,
Well,
20.
council would have to decide.
I know, but it's either 27 or 29, so it's
Right.
in the future. I think that the amount looks good for today, but I think knowing that it's not going to go into effect till 27 or 29, that perhaps making it $1,000 a month would be more appropriate. And then if they want to miss 1 meeting of each, I don't have a problem with that, but
Unless you reran the numbers for those communities on our chart that have the built-in raises, so you'll know what those communities will be, what those numbers will be in 27 and 29.
The challenge is most of them have a CPI, so I would have to, only Joliet has the said 2%, so I would have to take a guess
Okay.
at the CPI,
Yeah.
which I'd probably use like 2%, but I would.
It would not be exact, but it'd be at least something closer to what the other communities would be in those years.
So again, tonight is a work session. We're taking feedback so that we can come up. We, provided some initial history along with some suggestions and guidance. There's clearly a few questions that the attorney needs to look into. But, again, we have about 2 months, so I would like
So
to
we're not
not wait all the way.
discussing the mayor and the clerk and all that tonight, or that's next meeting?
You guys could choose to, again, those are locked in for another 2.5 years, so you can choose to do that with this or with the next, basically you have, another 2 years to basically do that.
What about the recommendation from the mayor? You didn't give us recommendation.
So for me, the only one I gave a recommendation on was for the council member positions, is that's the only one that was below the average. All of the other ones were
Right, the
basically.
mayor was the third highest mayor.
Yeah, so, there was not a.
Yeah, but they,
Can't reduce it.
since 2000 and whatever it was, 21 years ago? I mean,
25.
they, 25?
That's good.
Okay, they still need to get a raise. I mean, you can't just say because you're comparing to other municipalities, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
That is up to council. Again, the numbers, if I would have done this for I guess, city employees, if I was looking at this as employees, we'd first look at our external comparables, then we'd look at our internal comparables, and again, looking at the mayor position, that is on the top 3 of the ones that are paid, even if they were not. In HR, that would be considered like, if it was over, it would be a red circled one to say that they're overpaid. This one is not over the average, so it's something that we'd say that is in line. Again, I don't know
Yeah, but
what.
the council decides.
Oh, exactly, but that's why I didn't give a recommendation. You asked the question why I didn't give a
Riverville
recommendation.
mayor makes $126,000. You have Frankfurt, $36,000 for mayor. So,
But you can also suggest
I understand, but
the percentage or CPI rider on there without making a change. Now you can just put that on there and not change it.
Frankfurt makes 11,000.
Yeah.
You could have a CPI, you could wait, again.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, when I look at the mayor compensation, and this one, the blue one, pretty much right in the middle, between the low ones and the high ones. And to me, I think it's a fair salary. I think based on our population, when you look at everything else, when you look at our median income, we're certainly not Frankfurt or Mokina, and they are much lower in regards to the mayor's compensation. So I know it's been 25 years, because it was 2001, I believe, that the mayor, the clerk, and the treasurer was given a raise, and in 2005, it started with 4 of the aldermen. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm right in the middle. It should just stay like that, and life goes on. I don't think that there needs to be an increase for the mayor's salary.
I agree, the mayor's salary is right in the middle, and it's a good spot to be. And I think the CPI rider on that current position right now would keep you in that spot, right in the middle. If everybody else has got that CPI rider, all the other municipalities, you're going to stay right in the center, basically. And still not fall behind. If you don't do anything, you're going to fall behind.
He said put the
Well,
CPI.
if you do the
rider.
CPI, that's,
Right, just do a CPI.
Okay.
CPI.
I just want everybody to be treated equally and fair.
Sure. Clerk position was the next one, if you want to talk about that.
It's kind of the same position, you know.
Yeah.
Or just give them the CPI.
So throw the CPI to it.
And the
Okay.
treasurer.
And then the treasurer?
Yeah,
Do the CPI.
Treasurer,
position, it's not the people.
that's the only one that's that high, so I guess we just could keep that one the same because it's the highest.
It's up to you guys.
Well, it's the highest because certain.
Well, the communities don't have a treasurer.
No, certain city, they don't have a treasurer, it's the finance director handles that.
Right, exactly.
But they both put their signature online, the clerk and the treasurer. And we're not home rule, I mean, that's how it's been.
Are you going to add the CPI to the alder people too?
Right now, those are the notes I have for each one. There was a recommendation, I mean, there hasn't been more direction, but somebody at least noted that the $1,000 for the city council members with the CPI, the mayor with the CPI, the clerk with the CPI, and the treasurer.
Well, that was just nobody
know,
else.
that's why I said there hasn't
Nobody
been.
else spoke up about the $1,000. I just thought it's going to be delayed, so I
Well,
think.
because it's gonna be delayed.
Well, I know, but nobody else said anything.
Would
Just
you
me.
agree? I agree, and you agree. I don't know who else.
It's not just my.
Here's my only thought. Now, I'm going to make a blanket statement. I would just suggest that council think about the increase of $1,000 is going to probably raise, well, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be what's almost doubling the price of what you're making now. Just remember, probably going to raise some flags with some social medias and with some newspapers. So you may just want to think about that for a while before we talk about it again, maybe in a few weeks here. That might be maybe a little bit of a controversial topic, because when you look at what everybody else is making, that is going to be a big, big jump.
I understand, but you also stated that for the last 21 years, this council have not gotten a raise.
I'm not
And
debating that, Claudia.
the council put many, many hours, and we even put money from our pockets to certain events to,
All I'm saying is,
and everyone is welcome to run. I mean, this is an open, this is not just for the existing council. Anyone, maybe this will motivate people to run, because probably they're gonna do it for the money. Obviously, for all these years, some of us been here over 20 years, we've been doing it for the work and for the commitment, you know, and some of us, we don't even miss meetings. So we are here dedicated, and if the people of Crest Hill don't think we deserve that, then they can vote us out.
This is a proposed number from Blaine, not us, Mayor.
I proposed $900, not 1,000.
Well, I'm looking at 10,800 a year.
Correct, so.
Okay, whatever a month is to the year change would be
So that would be $100 more. So
over $4,000 increase. I mean, that's
Correct.
probably 80% increase. I mean, I think if you just want to look at numbers, but, you know, I did a little calculation based on if we got any increase since 2005, a 2% yearly increase would bring us up to currently we'd be getting $8,624. So that's if we got 2%, which is low, per year increase since 2005, which hasn't happened, obviously. So a lot of this is you know, and I think what the research showed is just trying to get to what the market and what's comparable to municipalities around us.
I agree.
You know, I would throw out the ones that are, you know, from Romeoville and higher, who are double our population, and, you know, drop Minooka out of there, they're almost half of our population, but that's, you know, what comparables are. We're still, you know, for the amount of time that goes into what we do, and we don't get any additional compensation. We don't get a monthly gas allowance. We don't get a cell phone. You know, a lot of what we're doing is on our own time. And I'm not complaining about it. We all knew what we were signing up for. But if you want to have attract other people to potentially want to get involved, I think you got to be, you know, marketable compensation. You know, it's not 1960 anymore. It's not 2005 anymore. Can't find it now, but with rate of inflation, with what our salary is now. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I got my phone now. That's a picture I took. In 2026, the salary that was in 2005 is over $12,000, if you count inflation. You know, That's all I had to say about that. So if you're worried about controversy, anyone wants to run for office, they're always welcome.
Mark, can I bring up CPI? You had said you had figured it out at 2%.
It's higher.
This year,
I know.
no, that's low. Last year was 3%.
That's what I mean, it's higher. So I was being conservative.
Conservative.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Currently, right now,
Because
it's
Glenn just looked it up for me. So far this year, it's at 2.5.
Joe, what were you starting to say?
I just was agreeing with Mark's comments, and the concern Tina has is legitimate, but we can look at this again in 2 years. You'll have time before the 2029 kicks in, for Tina's concern.
Yeah, I mean, that's if council wants to either wait, or if we're just going to do it right now for the group of 4. If we're doing it just for the 4, then it would be staggered.
You still have to do it now because
Still have to do it.
you have to have it done for the cycle, even if you're going to wait to pay it in
You have
20
to do it for
You have to
the
do it.
4,
Mhm.
yeah.
You have
But
to do it.
you could delay it, as what Scott has recommended.
I understand that you can delay everybody getting paid, but you have to make the move now.
Correct, before October 28th.
You can't wait.
No, I understand, but
Okay, well,
I think what Joe is saying for the other 4, along with the clerk, treasurer, and the mayor
Mayor.
position, that could all wait for 2 more years, because they still have 2.5 years. They have up to 180 days, so council could still make an adjustment if you wanted to.
But it wouldn't be uniform then.
Yeah, it won't be uniform.
It would be on that staggered pattern.
No, it won't be uniform. You gotta do it now.
I'm not saying you can't do it now.
Yeah.
We've batted this about so many times and never done anything about it, and now 21 years have gone by, and some people up here, been up here almost all that time, if not all that time, and very dedicated in doing a lot for this community, and we seem to keep putting this off. And who knows who'll be sitting here when this goes into effect, but
Yeah, probably some of us won't be even here. So we're getting it ready for the next people.
get it done now.
You've put a good study together. It tells you right there with the number. 10.8 is a fair number. It's very fair. I'd have no problem discussing that with anybody. None.
Well, I think that's the important part, Joe, is the only people we have to answer to are our constituents. We don't have to answer to the mayor or city administrator or anybody. We just have to answer to the residents. So if they have questions about salary, I mean, that's it. That's who we talk to. We can
Correct.
explain.
And so many
I think
people,
we
when
have
they
to-
find.
We have
go
to
ahead.
remember too that we keep saying ourselves, but we cannot give ourselves raises. So this is for, like you said, the next group of people, the
Correct.
next election.
Because none of us are going to be here for a long time or forever. I mean, it's none of us. But talking about salary, I want to agree with Nate. We have to answer the resident. A lot of residents, they get shocked when they find out we only make $400. They're like, really? Only? I'm like, yeah, only. I mean, they don't believe it. So people thought that we make a lot of money. We don't.
Yeah, when I got elected years ago, my grandmother, she's in Chicago, she goes, oh, you won't have to fix cars no more. I said, that won't even buy groceries for my family, so I still fix cars, so.
So I think the only other thing that wasn't clear is if we're going to push it all, so if that is the consensus to push it to 2029, so it would be voted on during this time period, but be delayed for all of those positions until 2029.
So we can get all paid equally in the same time.
Yes, all with the CPI going into effect as of.
Well, no, so because not certain council gets paid more money.
Correct.
For 2 more years, and the others, they have to wait. That's how Scott wanted, remember?
Say that again?
Scott said it's not fair that the 4 people that they're gonna
Right,
get
he
elected to
said-
get paid.
Yeah. He
Right.
said to vote on it now, but it starts in 29.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's
there would be a delay.
So we won't be getting anything if we get elected,
If you
some
get
of us.
yes. So the 4, whoever gets elected for this next term,
Correct.
there's 4 council
Explain that.
members that would be delayed. They would still be on the same schedule.
Correct.
Now, do we want to change some of the other discussions, what was in regards to having one absence for a council meeting, one absence for a work session, and one for any committee meeting?
Yep.
That's
Well,
fine.
committee is a committee.
Well, the committee one, I think, still needs to get some weigh-in from the attorney. We're currently not getting paid for it, so you could miss them all now and it wouldn't matter.
Well, this is going to be for the future, where you will be getting paid for them because they're included in whatever the
In your
stipend
salary.
is.
Yeah.
So, beginning in '29, I mean, we're going to look back at what we're going to do for the past, but I think this ordinance is going to need to say how many committee meetings you can miss, if any, without a deduction.
So I guess we do a straw poll on each one.
I said this is just
So
for
this,
discussion tonight.
what you've proposed here is not accurate to schedule. You're going to hold off till 29? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what the group is
Is there going to be a
deciding.
vote on that, or is it?
Yeah, tonight is just discussion, we'll have to draft it up with the
Okay.
attorney, and then there'll be more
We're
discussion.
going to actually vote on it now, Joe, but it won't, the pay won't take effect till 29.
I understand that. How about if 4 people in here think it should start in 27?
Well, they got to ask that
That's how we
question.
got to vote on it.
Okay, that's why I said, do we
Yeah.
need to have a vote?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need to have
well,
a
that's
vote.
what I started to say, but I got poo-pooed again.
I don't see why, why 4 people that could go, which is traditional to do it that way, why we're changing it because Scott made a comment. Okay.
Is that what happened in 2005, those that were here to remember? It was a staggered. So
Right,
4 got it
exactly.
right away, the other 4, it was 2 years later during the next election?
Right.
Okay.
I still think that's a fine line because of the fact that somebody's pay will change while they're a city alderperson.
Exactly.
Right. But I guess if you're saying it's in place before they're elected, that's okay.
Well, how would their pay change? Why
Well,
they're,
your term would be 4 years. If you got elected in 27, your pay is changing during your term at 29, the way this is being presented. So
Yes, you
it's
start
fine
out at
if
one
it's
rate,
done.
and then 2 years later it goes up, but that was agreed to.
But it was already agreed on. They're not voting.
But what I'm saying though is, I understand that, but that those people technically are getting a disadvantage because they, work 2 years of their career, or their elected office, getting paid less than their entire 4-year term like the other people.
Oh, I
So
get it.
I guess I don't know which is the best way to
Oh.
go.
I see what you're saying.
You're right.
Now,
And it'd be
now,
very interesting to see kind of how the rest of the communities do it.
I didn't
Yeah,
think of
I
that.
thought that was going to be part of our, when we're checking with other communities, how they've rolled this out. I thought we might get some feedback on that.
Yeah, most of them are doing the staggered because the attorneys have felt that if you are actually sitting in the office, that you are now getting that raise. And again, that's why I had Attorney Stiff note that's how it was done in the past, and that's how he's recommending, not saying that you can't do it the other way, but that's his firm's recommendation.
I didn't think of that, Nate. Thanks for bringing that up.
That's why he's in finance.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Again, we don't need the answer tonight. We can bring that forward, and then you guys can vote on if you want to do it staggered. Again, the attorney can have more information. Again, we can list out which communities did do it staggered and which ones are doing it delayed, if that's helpful. Again, she's gathered a lot of that information already, so now she can just, one more slide to say which communities did it delayed and which ones did it staggered.
I have a note of it, not on me, but in my office, of how they've done it, and most of them are doing it staggered. They're not waiting.
So if you stagger it for a salary, what happens to the other 4 that are not getting the money?
They would be staying the
On the
way that we have it
system
right now.
Same system.
But they wouldn't get paid for a work session then, correct?
Yeah.
No, our current way has council meetings, the work session, and special meetings, and then apparently there's something about committee meetings, which again, the attorney's going to have to.
They
there'd
would
be two
stay in the
different
system they were
systems.
in.
There would be,
until
at that point,
Compensations.
again,
Old and, yeah, for 2 years.
yeah.
I mean, it really is exactly how it was in 2005.
And again, the state set these rules, so this is not like us creating anything, so.
Yeah.
Right. Because the past, they used to hook it in with the mayor, clerk, and treasurer.
But I didn't think about it the way you said it, because whoever gets elected, they're only gonna get 2 years, while the other group will get 4
Correct.
years.
But again,
Very good point.
let's just say that the whole 4 people, the seats turn over. You have 4 new people on the council. They didn't vote for the raise that they will get 2 years in, right? They didn't vote for it. The rules are that you can't vote for it during your term. And that vote will have taken place 2 years before they took office.
There's arguments both ways. Again, you guys are just going to need to decide. We'll write it up with the attorney, and I think that's all we need on this item, unless there's other comments. Okay.
Does that mean I gotta buy you a drink every week?
Thanks, Shay.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Oh,
we have nothing under engineering, nothing under police, nothing under public works, finance. Glenn?
Yeah, okay. If I've been doing all the research I want.
Wait a minute, I forgot economic development, didn't I?
There you go.
Wait to skip you.
You could skip it.
Damn.
Gonna let Glenn get out of here, so.
Hang on, Glenn, I tried to get you out of here.
Sneak it in.
Dan, you got 2 things.
Sure.
Make it quick.
The first one is the Plan Commission recommendation for text amendments to Chapter 15.12 Sign Code of the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances. That's from the city here, so this has been a few month history here. I even came to a city council work session and looked for some direction on this. And then we had 2 meetings with the Plan Commission to really kind of work through the fine details of the sign code update. And that was in July 9th. We kind of did an overview, initial discussion with the Plan Commission. And then August 13th, we did the formal public hearing. So it is just kind of an overview of this. Since I've been here, since Atka's been here, it's been very apparent our sign code is outdated. There's been signs that we really kind of cringe at that are just do not look good. They don't fit very well with some of the improvements we're trying to make in the community, but we're going to force to approve them. And those can be on existing developments or new developments. So what we tried to do, kind of combing through this, is update our zoning code for a number of reasons: clarification, changing technologies, and again, just trying to improve the overall appearance. So I won't go through every part of this because the ordinances in your books are in the packet. Plan Commission had some pretty heavy discussion, but just kind of some of the main points would be that the goal is to improve the overall layout of the sign code. The current sign code setup is kind of scattered as we added things ad hoc throughout the year. It just kind of became a mess, so we looked at reorganizing that into very clear sections that would allow anybody to kind of look at the sign code and more easily figure out what the rules are. We added some additional sign design standards, so basically not allowing pole signs now and doing some more solid base brick signs. That's pretty standard practice kind of across most communities that you'll see around here, Romeoville, Plainfield. The goal is to kind of just start improving our streetscape appearance with signs that are fairly noticeable when you look at our main commercial corridors. Kind of the trade-off is that while there's some additional requirements, there's actually a little more flexibility built in here for temporary sign allowances, for the size. And so we really try to balance those 2 things. To one, make sure we're kind of improving the look of these, but also making sure we're not getting overly restrictive and businesses can't advertise. We kind of included some additional definitions, clarifying kind of our non-conforming sign provisions, and again, just kind of cleaning up, streamlining some of the procedures, approval process. One thing that this code makes clear is that we're not going to add on any additional costs to our current businesses or property owners. So if you have a non-conforming sign, you are allowed to keep it as long as you're utilizing it. You can maintain it, you can switch out sign panels, you can do all of that with a sign. So we're not making businesses across the community change today. But what it's going to do is kind of over time, as we get redevelopment, as we get new development, you'll slowly start to change and see this happen. You can even kind of see that in Joliet now. You'll still drive by and still see some outdated signs as you go through there, but you start to see stuff with more kind of the solid base, landscaping, reasonable sizes, and not something that's huge and massive that you can see from blocks and blocks away. And again, that's what businesses tend to want, is the biggest sign, but we kind of got a balance. We got a lot of commercial properties, especially when you talk about like Plainfield Road, Broadway. We want to make sure every business, every property kind of has some equal requirements. So I want to thank Atapa. She did a lot of the initial kind of sign research on this and kind of pulling together the comparables. She did a really good job doing that. So I want to applaud her, and as well as Plan Commission, which brought us a lot of good feedback, even allowed us to tweak some of the requirements to kind of better fit within the sign code. So this is just the work session, and it's just a general overview, but I am open to any questions. Obviously trying to help move this along, so and if there any questions come up between now and then the next council meeting as well, feel free to send those our way.
As far as the sorry, do you have your hand up?
That's okay.
As far as the non-conforming uses, like what happens if there's like storm damage or something like that? Is that considered, they'd have to redo it as a monument sign?
It is more than 50% of the value of the replacement of the sign. So if it is completely destroyed, you would have to build it back to the way it is. If there's some extenuating circumstances, they still have options like variations, but the goal is that over time, if they were going to spend all the money to put the sign back, they should be putting it back to our current standards.
Okay, thank you.
As speaking of variances, several times during this, people comment on how commission, how you should hold firm to the new standards and not give any variances, which, to make a blanket statement like that, you can't, because the essence of variances is for unusual circumstances. But when you go to page 62 for variations, it says request for variations shall comply, and then everything is lined out, and it says section 12.6, but I couldn't find that.
I'd have to, some of it's confusing because of the way we move sections around. So if something's lined out, it probably just would move to a different section.
Well, I just want to make sure that that section was still there for, I mean, who does, you can't predict what kind of unique situation might fall upon a business, and I didn't want it just totally ripped out of there. And
it is not, I think it got moved under the administrative section on it, and we can clarify that with the ordinance we're going to be bringing. It'll have a clean copy in there because the red line version is very hard to read, obviously, when you're replacing a large section and moving stuff around, so it didn't work very well here. You can still apply for a variance, so we can double check and make sure that's still in there and still referred there. So yes, you can still apply for a variance. The one thing I brought up to the Plan Commission is that, and I'll bring it up here too, because you as the elected officials will hear a lot of the feedback from businesses. One of the tough things is kind of changing a code to be a little stricter in the beginning, because somebody new coming in is going to go, I want to be like everybody else, right? I want the tall sign, I want to match everyone else. So they're going to want to naturally go, well, let me apply for the variance. That's why we're taking this comprehensive look to go, where do we want to go? If we want to start changing, we need to do that consistently over time. So that's where I want to be careful that we don't just have people applying for variances to match what's existing when we're trying to change. But there is obviously still unique situations out there, grade differences,
just unique.
Well, and you'll always present your feedback on a variance,
Yeah.
yay, nay. So we have that to rely on. But I mean, there's just strange things. I mean, if their parcel is 30 feet below road level and they want their sign, I mean, you just don't know.
Yep. Setbacks are definitely in heights and stuff like that can definitely come up. What we don't want to have is just somebody go, well, I want to match the previous code.
Right.
But you still always have to have that option to apply for a variance or apply for relief. So I believe it's still supposed to be referring back to the section on variances in the zoning code.
Tina, real quick, I think variations it now just refers back to the variance procedure in the zoning code. So everything else that used to be in the sign code is lined out, and it simply just kicks variations back to the zoning code.
Yeah, so now that's jogging memory, which is, it was repeated language from the zoning code. I don't like doing that because why not just refer to one section and try and have duplicative language in two sections, and then you change one and you forget to change the other. So we did just point back to
So everything is lined out except the one sentence that's hard to see because it's in a sea of lineouts, but it says, requests for variations shall comply with section 12.6 variations of the Crest Hill zoning ordinance, period.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job on that.
Any other questions? All right, we'll do a straw vote for approval of the ordinance approving comprehensive text amendments, chapter 15.12 of the Crest Hill City Code. Scott?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
All right, we'll have it on the agenda for the 8th.
And the second item I have is the Plan Commission recommendation for preliminary and final plat subdivision, special use for outdoor recreational plaza and public park / playground, and multiple variations requested from the Crest Hill zoning ordinance with respect to real property at 2590 to 2660 City Center Boulevard in Crest Hill, Illinois. This is for our City Center Park, newly named Crest Hill Commons. This is really kind of the zoning approvals for that park that we've been given direction by the City Council on. The goal here is, again, to clean up both the plat approvals for subdividing. Currently, we're sitting on that parcel, so it's currently one parcel that will be divided into 4. You'll have the City Hall parcel and the Police Department parcel. You'll have the overall kind of public plaza parcel. Then you'll have the smaller park district parcel that's actually surrounded by ours. And then you kind of have the remaining space that's north of us here. So the zoning code, as well as kind of our standard practice zoning district regulations, which relate to all the B3 zoning districts, obviously don't take into account 1, publicly owned property, 2, a separate parcel that'll be a playground that's going to be owned by a different zoning district. So overall, just kind of a unique situation here that our zoning code just doesn't take into account. So that's why we kind of have to follow our own rules, and we went through the public process to look at the same standards that we would with any other variance or any other special use, to make sure we're following those and to get approval for the overall platted subdivision. So similar to the other one, Plan Commission reviewed this at the last City Council meeting in August, and gave a unanimous recommendation of approval for all 3 of those requests: the subdivision, the special use, and then there's a group of variations mostly related to that internal lot that council's given direction on the previous IGA with the Park District to transfer that use. Obviously, for them, they want to have control over the property for insurance reasons, grant reasons. There are all applicable easements with that platted subdivision as well. So
cross-access, cross-parking, and more that just kind of make sure everything works correctly. So that is all I have. Anyone has any questions? Otherwise, most of this has been direction from the council already, so none of this is really new. It's just making sure we follow our own rules.
Any questions?
No, and Deb, I have something else. Wait.
You got a question?
No, on that, I said something else.
Go ahead.
No, not on this, something else. You want me to do it now?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about stuff like that, it was brought up to my attention, is there a way, since with the storms, we have a lot of damages and a lot of the residents are applying for permits to like fix the roof or whatever, is there a way we can look into something, at least we can give the resident like a break, 50% or something, if it's God's act, like the storm, something happened? Are you aware of any other municipalities or anyone else who did do
I'm
something
not,
like that?
being maybe a little more lenient on repairs and stuff like that. I've seen some of that to go, okay, if replacing an 8 or 16-foot section of fence where a tree went on, we'll count that as maintenance and just go check to make sure it's secure, you're not pouring any more posts or anything. I haven't seen any other communities just flat out waive fees for things like storm damage or anything like that. Mostly because ours and most other communities have some pretty, the residential permit fees are meant to really just cover some baseline cost.
Okay.
They really don't even cover the full cost of inspection, staff time to process
I got
permits or anything like that. They're pretty minimal to begin with. But if there is any unique situations where somebody's maybe just doing a repair or something, we'll gladly work with people to get repairs done. So.
Okay.
If somebody's replacing, an entire fence or an entire roof, we still need to be able to do the inspections and stuff. And again, those permits are usually less than $100 in most cases. So.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, on this plat for the park, I meant to ask, the portion that's getting deeded to the other party, is that, like, this looks like Lot 3 and Lot 4 both point to the same place on this map, so I'm a little confused.
Give me 1 second. I think Lot 3 is our overall lot, and Lot 4 is supposed to be the internal.
And is that just the playground area, or does it go all the way to the street?
It's just the playground area, so it's wholly surrounded by our parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to give direction on that one. That'll be on the
For number
schedule
2?
for the September 8th.
For the Plan Commission recommendation for preliminary final plat of subdivision, special use for outdoor recreational plaza and public playground, park, multiple variations requested from the Crest Hill zoning ordinance with respect to real property located at 20590 to 20660 City Center Boulevard in Crest Hill, the application of the city of Crest Hill. Joe?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Tina?
Yes.
Claudia? Darrell?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That'll be all on September 8th also.
Sounds good. That's all I have
Okay.
unless there's any
All right.
other questions.
No questions. All right, moving on to Finance Department. Glenn?
Save the best for last, right? Anyway.
He said
this-
that, Don.
This is a discussion for a draft of residential utility billing assistance pilot program. I'd say that actually most of this is done by Blaine. He designed most of the stuff. So Blaine, if you want to talk about this,
It definitely was a joint effort. I know between finance, we talked with Public Works and with our attorney. As the city continues to get more and more residents reaching out to city council members, as well as requests through our utility billing staff for a payment plan, I felt it was time that this item get brought before council. The city currently does not have a payment plan option. As such, staff started reviewing how other communities have addressed some of these more common themes that were occurring. Staff from, again, from finance and administration along with public works and also conversations with our city attorney met several times over the past few weeks and provided this initial draft pilot program for discussion this evening. Staff also talked with or met with several residents as well as some council members that had, again, council members that were noted by their constituents in their various wards that had residents that experienced higher bills for various reasons. Some of those residents, well actually all of those residents have requested a waiver of the late fee component and to be placed on a payment plan. So tonight for discussion, I wasn't sure if some of them were going to show up or not, but I promised all of those individuals that I'd provide them with an update on council's discussion this evening. And then there is attached in council's packet on page, I want to say it starts on 130, a draft residential utility billing assistance pilot program. Again, what is being recommended is a short period time to do this pilot. It would be effective upon adoption through the end of this calendar year, so up to December 31st. There are two components. One section is a one-time late fee waiver, and the other is the payment plan. So I know it's a couple pages here for council. And again, if you'd like, I could walk through, or Glenn could walk through kind of a Reader Digest version of the policy. But I do believe, since the community has been, in place since 1960, that having some sort of a payment plan option that staff would be able to objectively implement would be very helpful. Again, residents from various wards have reached out to several of you, as well as now had conversations with myself and several other, with the finance director and some other staff members. So we did spend a little bit of time drafting this two-part pilot for tonight's discussion.
If you don't mind, I just want to give a brief little overview of the part one, which is what's going to be probably utilized most often by the residents. And this is just the one-time late fee waiver. Is basically a percentage of your water usage for not having your bill paid up on time. And most people do this, and the thing is a one-time thing, so the chronic late payers won't be able to use it. We track that now. If we're going to pay somebody, we're going to have a way to do this. Now, there's two different types of customers you have. You have your residents who actually own their place, and then you have tenants who rent from a landlord. Now, the landlord is ultimately responsible for the water bill, so it's really their account. So, it's important we keep in touch with them as well and let them know what's happening so they know their tenants are late pays, because they're the ones on the hooks for that. So again, it'll be a one-time thing, and that's what's going to be used most often. The second part of this plan is to come up with a utility payment plan. Should they have an unfortunate financial hiccup in their daily stuff, these can be somewhat large. And what we're probably talking about is the continuous flow issues. And a lot of people are unaware of that until we make the call and say, hey, you got a continuous flow. They're like, nothing's running. I'm like, check everything because we got flow coming. And then they'll eventually find it and say, oh yeah, thanks, whatever. But then they still have that enormous bill they have to get rid of. Now, we don't like to, I don't want people to get used to paying this, because their expenses still, their monthly bill still happens every month, or every other month now, because we're on a bi-monthly cycle. But I'm trying to keep that as short as possible, because they're still going to have to make their current payments, and they got to make current on that. So if we give them a payment plan for their past due balance. This will only be for their past due balance. So let's say you had a bill that was exorbitant, you had $1,000 worth of water bills, and your bill is normally like $400. You're like, okay, well, I'll take that past due balance, and we'll schedule a plan out there and say, this is what your payments are going to be. You got to make so much on this date, so much on this date, so much on this date, and we want to make that as short as possible because, again, they still got bills coming. And then there's a second part of that component, which is their current bill. They have to remain current with that. So part of this program is not only do you have to make those scheduled payments for your past due balance on time, but you have to remain current with your current usage going forward. So again, that's what we're saying about the regular thing. Any missed payments, whether it's part of the scheduled payments that they have or part of their current payment, if they miss that, they're coming off the program, everything becomes due, water shutoffs, everything can happen just like it normally would. But we're trying to give them some leeway to help catch up for that unfortunate incident they had. But that's what this is designed for. And like I said, we worked with Blaine, we worked with Mike. Regina was a good part of this, and everybody put their ideas together to come up with something that was helps the residents while trying to keep it minimal. We don't want them to get used to this or have a long-term plan out there because they won't be able to keep up on their water bills, and that's the current issue. They have to remain current on that, and that's the whole thing.
And the final thing I want to note on the last page, I do talk about reporting back to council. So at the conclusion of this pilot program, staff shall prepare a report. So just after the end of the year, we prepare a report that would say, this is the number of late waiver fees that were requested. These were the number that were approved. These are the number of payment plans that were approved. And these were the amounts, any default rates, and then any other recommendations for modification and that sort of stuff. So this is a very tight pilot, only a couple months because we're on a 2-month cycle. But I do believe that this overall 2-prong approach will help out our residents. So I'm hopeful that council will at least give some good feedback tonight, and then we could bring this forward quite soon for council to consider and vote on.
I just have one question about, it shall automatically expire on December 31st, 2026?
Yep. Unless council takes action, so.
Well, I know, but
Yep.
maybe it would be better to get a report a little earlier so we could decide. I mean, if we're going to get the report after we can, the timeline, what are we going to be judging our extension
Yeah,
on?
I think I would like to say that that's when the last enrollment in there. Their payment plans may actually go further than that, so there's still going to be people probably on the program should they have these payment plans that take them out, because...
No, what I'm saying is, at the conclusion of the pilot program, staff shall prepare a report to the city council summarizing. Well, the conclusion is December 31st, unless we vote on it. But without knowledge about how it went or what had happened, how are we going to vote on it prior to December 31st is all I'm saying is it possible to get a report?
Yes.
Sooner than that, so we have something to vote on if we want to extend it.
I totally agree, and we should give you progress reports from once you allow us to start this program. We can give you, bi-weekly reports if you want that. That's fine.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
That'd be great.
Because if we're allowing a payment program that's up to 12 months, really can't weigh in on how effective the program is until 12 months.
We really don't expect to hit that in this period of time. Actually, if you're lucky, you may have one of those per year because of the levels.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because right now, there is no, we're expecting full payment. There's no leniency, correct?
We know approximately how many people hit these problems. So, like currently, right now, I had a commercial account that hit it, and they had a run-on for 2.5 months, and it was $3,400. So in one cycle, and then another $1,600. But that's a commercial account. Most of them, don't, and he has 5 meters. Yeah. So it was unusual. So that's what I'm saying. When you get those, they're going to be unusual accounts. Like we had in January. It was like, are you kidding me? That never happens.
But this pilot program will only be available to residential.
Correct. This is a residential program, and Mark, I'd also note, the first 3 residents that I talked to and asked them what would they be able to pay, most of them are able to pay right now in that 3-month window. They realize that they have these upcoming normal bills that they'll have as well for usage, so most of them, I mean, one even said, I'm working overtime right now, so I'm really hoping that council does approve a payment plan, because she's trying to get as much money as she can, and that waiver would also help her, so she's not getting penalized, penalized even further.
Yeah.
And so that's why the waiver, in talking even with these different residents, we adjusted kind of our strategy to have a 2-part component, so the waiver of the fee along with the payment plan option. Bless you.
No,
So we're hopeful that most of them will probably be in that 3-month window. Again, during the cost, it could have some that go a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But if we implement this soon, we would then have October, November, and December. And so if we have a good, I guess, test for council to at least consider.
And let me understand that the payments that we're working on are not monthly payments. The residents here are trying to catch up. They're paying weekly. So that's what I'm saying. It's a quick turnaround. They want to get back on track as well.
No, I'm in full support of a billing assistance program. Because believe me, I hear a lot about water bills and how high they are, and it's you know, it's hard for a lot of people. Yep. So I'm definitely in support of this program. I'm just wondering if, you know, what are we going to have 2 billing cycles before December 31st?
Correct.
I mean, it's kind of hard to get a consensus of how any program is going when you have 2 data points. I mean, I'd be in support of a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to
I
extend it
think,
a little longer, that's fine. We can do that.
You know, there's not going to, you know, depending on how we present this as an available option to residents, there's always people that are going to say, I didn't know it was available. And if they missed it by 2 months, now they're, you know, if they hear about it, they could still get into it and still get, you know, even if it's into the first 1 or 2 billing cycles of the following year.
Yeah, my true hope actually is that the pilot is successful and that we are able to place it as a program.
Yeah.
And so to me, looking at 2 billing cycles would allow us to not have a mad rush, I guess. Yeah. If we, you know, but if you want to extend it maybe another, we're on a 2-month schedule, so if you want to extend it maybe another 2 months, that would get basically 6 months instead of the 4-month window. But again, my hope is to bring, as the pilot would expire, to bring back these reports, and again, as was noted, you know, having monthly reports to council, you know, so that there's not just this deadline, and then hopefully say, we feel that this is a good program to have. Again, as we've researched with other communities, they have some sort of staff allowed kind of discretion to put people on payment plans or to do that. Forgiveness is one time. Most of the communities that do it is a one-time forgiveness for the fee.
Okay. Another question I had, or I guess it's more of a comment on regarding the one-time late fee waiver. Number 3 under conditions where it says the customer must verbally request the waiver with a written request preferred. I think the written request has to be.
I agree.
Has to be gotten because verbally, you know.
I understand.
People don't remember, someone told someone this, they don't remember. That way, you know, you got to have something in writing to say they got their one-time waiver on this date and it goes in the file.
I'm in complete agreement. There was more.
That's the one comment I have on that.
Yeah, the challenge with that, again, talking with our utility billing staff, the majority are phone calls, and so we're not getting a written document.
And we don't have emails for everybody. That's
correct.
That's one of the problems.
And yeah, I've been working with my staff because this is my issue, because I'm right on board with you right there, and I want my staff to get something in writing because I'm fearful of the time somebody comes back a year or 2 later and says, you know, hey, I never asked for that. Who said that?
Correct.
I didn't do that. So that's why I want to get that. I do want to get that in writing, whether it's via email or something like that, or they come down and just give us something that says this is what it is. I just want something attached to the file.
Well, I think worst case scenario, you have the employee document who they spoke with and what day and notate their account with that information.
That's what's in there, and then that's why
Yeah.
we wrote, again, this is a pilot, to say what is preferred. So if we can get the individual's email address, and then we could send them confirmation, that also can be a copy to the file. Again, this is a brand-new pilot program. We've never done this, so we're going to learn a few things as staff interact with the customers.
My
I have
hope
a
is that-
question. Go ahead.
My hope is that because we're giving them a break on the money, they're going to be willing to come down and either give us something in writing to avoid that fee. So I think it's incentive for them to do it.
And they could email it to you, too.
Or an email. The email, whatever, yeah, just as long as they give us something in writing.
No,
and
I'm just
say-
saying, they don't even have to leave their house if they email it to you.
That's correct, yes, yeah.
On page 131, on the bottom, it says approval of 30, outstanding balance, approval of 30 from 100 to 1,000, utility bill, billing supervisor, and then it goes to finance assistant, and then council after 5. Is there a way that you can be on all these, especially the utility one as well? That the finance manager will make that decision as well?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, director.
Yeah, yes, I can do that, That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Trying to keep it low, but yeah, $1,000 isn't a lot, and it's gonna be very minimal, but yes, I can do that, it's fine. Like I said, I'm there all the time, I like to work.
No,
with
I know
the
you
city.
are, but I'm just,
So, but yeah,
to have it writing is better.
yep, I agree.
I just got a couple concerns. One, with the waiver of the fee, isn't it possible that can be put on the bill, like the late fee waiver, so that we wouldn't have to get caught up with all this something in writing or whatever? We'll have the bill itself would specify that the fee was waived.
Yes, well, that's the whole thing. We're in discussing with this, while they can make the request ahead of time, I can't waive the fee till it actually hits the bill, because I want to show that there was a fee on here, how much the fee was and how much we're waiving. I do want that in there, so we can keep that on file and says what happened, because again, this is a one-time, lifetime, Crest Hill resident program. So you take it down, you have another issue 2 years from now, like you don't get it anymore. So that's the whole thing. So, well, at least that's how it's designed now.
But Darrell, I think what you're asking, I think in our upcoming bills, we'd be able to put something in there or provide our email address so that they would just have to email us to say. So they would be able to check off basically that they'd like that waiver waived, so we'd have something in writing. That's what you're
I
asking.
think what he meant is something that will stay on the water bill that they will
The
waive.
late fee was waived.
That's a good
That was
idea.
waived.
That's a good idea. Let me see if I
That's a
can do
very
that.
good idea.
Oh,
I gotta see if I have.
Permanently that it was
Yeah,
waived?
it will be
Yeah.
underwater, but that's what he meant.
Okay.
That's
I-
good.
that should
I
paper
gotta see if I
trail
have
right
space on the
there.
bill.
Actually
If I got space on the bill, I'll squeeze that on
Yeah.
there, but it's
Okay.
all formatted of how much
Right.
space I have.
And my second concern is the period of time we're looking to recapture the funds. How is that gonna be structured? Because I know everybody may not make the same type of money, how do we make it where we're not putting the person in a financial bind even though they're already late?
So we're gonna be working with the residents individually on that. There's no set model on that, because everybody has different income and different, flexibilities in their financial thing. I can't say one size fits all kind of thing. So we're gonna work with them, because we don't wanna see them fail. We wanna get them back online, back in the program, because again, most of them didn't do anything to get them to this spot. Something happened to them, and we want to get them adjusted. That's the whole idea of trying to do this program, is we want to get them happy again on the program, paying appropriately, and that's the whole idea. And if we go to monthly billing like Blaine wants to do, that'll help out a lot.
Yeah, and Darrell, you might remember for the resident we met with, instead of me suggesting a dollar amount, it was asking her, what do you think you what payment plan can you afford? And she's like, all right, she thought about it. By the end of the meeting, she gave us a number that she felt every 2 weeks that she could pay. So to me, that's where, Glenn and his staff would say, okay, instead of, we need $100 every 2 weeks, we need to work with that resident because they know what their budget is and what could they, we don't want to put them in any worse shape. We want them to come up with that number.
Right.
But their repayment has to occur within the 12-month period.
Oh, most definitely.
I mean, they can't, we're not going to work with them to the extent that they're having any amount forgiven.
Correct. The goal is, again, not to go to collections or not to shut them off. And if they do happen to come back with a payment plan that's over the 12 months, that's where it would go to council if that's what they chose to request. So if somebody's on the high end, let's just say near, the 5,000 mark, they come in at $4,800 because they had a huge constant flow, and they say, look, there's not a way I can get this in the 12 months. I need 18 months. I'm going to say, well, based on our pilot policy, my position doesn't have the authority. I need to bring that to council. Would you like to bring it to council? So and that's where Glenn is saying, most likely we've been able to catch most of these when they're in that $1,000 to maybe $2,500 realm. So hopefully we can get them on payment plans. Again, that's only going to be easier once it's on monthly bill cycles so that we catch it quicker so that the amounts are lower. But our hope, again, and that's why we structured it for 12 months or up to 12 months, our hope is really within a couple months, but not to go over 12 months. That's why this policy says not more than 12 months unless it's going to come to council.
Yeah, the target is to keep most of them under 3 months, ideally.
So I think the sooner the better we start this program.
Well, we'll be happy to bring it to council for this upcoming meeting, and
Yeah,
you guys
Could
could
it
vote for it, or
could
if there's
everything
any
be set?
adjustments, we could do that at the
Everything be
meeting.
put together by September 8th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody in favor of that, council?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, let's have it ready for September 8th, because I know there's a lot of people out there waiting in line. Okay, anything else?
No,
All
sir.
right, any questions of finance? All right, public comment, anyone like to address city council, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, address is optional. Let the record show no one has approached the podium. Mike, is there a need for an executive session?
There is not.
I had a question for Blaine before you adjourn. May I?
Go ahead.
Is tonight's meeting being recorded and/or streamed, televised live?
It is being televised live through our AT&T and Comcast. It's being
Recorded.
So it's recorded and then will be posted on the city's YouTube page.
Okay. Is there a problem with streaming live to YouTube?
There is currently, with us using the microphones and our equipment, we've still not figured out what that specific issue is. It does get disconnect either our microphones or the live stream. We're not sure why, but
'Cause I thought that was kind of the goal, because I thought we did have it live.
we did have it live for one work session and one for one council meeting. There was a power outage, and we're not sure if that damaged a portion of equipment that is not allowing it to happen now, but I know staff has been continuing to work on it. We're told that the new equipment would allow us to live stream, broadcast, and record all at the same time. Again, we've not gotten that RFP out yet to get vendors to do that, but we're working on that.
Okay, I think that's important to be able to get live on YouTube, but I also noticed that the August 10th work session 2 weeks ago is not on YouTube. Is there any, do we know what happened there?
Yeah, it was one of the things that was impacted just in our process of recording. There's a couple of, basically we have to set everything just so. It did broadcast that meeting. The recording failed for whatever reason. We did everything we could to both check the computers, the discs, the other things to capture that. One thing that we could do, based on the fact that we did get audio recording, is to still post a record of the audio recording. It's not the video that we would want, but failing a recording, we would put that together to post.
Okay. Who's handling audio video responsibilities now in the city?
Yeah, it's been a combination of effort between myself and Kishay
So, but I went through extensive training. I've sat through, we worked with Bill, I worked with Bill for at least an hour post that August 10th meeting to attempt to see if I could, one, recover anything, and also to ensure that everything is being put together in the right order, the right way. I've since put together, training materials. We have both video and screenshotted information to at least keep our equipment running as it has been running until we get the new things in place.
Okay, you mentioned tonight's meeting is live on AT&T and Comcast?
Yes.
Is it also being recorded, so it will be
Yes.
uploaded to YouTube?
Yes.
Tonight?
When I took a break from
Yeah.
here, I was back there, again, taking an opportunity to check and make sure we're capturing what we're capturing. And once we conclude the meeting, I'll be checking it again. We'll make sure we got a recording tonight still.
So will it be available to view tonight?
I don't know if it will be tonight. Sometimes it does take a little bit of time to convert the video in order to get it to do it. We can start that process and then have it ready early tomorrow. That would be my first goal to do that, but just because our meetings run long, I'm not sure how long it'll take.
Yeah, typically from Bill's training, the length of time for the meeting, so if it's 3 hours, it takes 3 hours for the tape to encode so that we could upload it to YouTube. So even if we concluded now, it wouldn't be until at least tomorrow. So,
Glenn, I have requested via email to put this on the agenda so we can figure a solution, a permanent solution where, the HR should not be doing this stuff. Right now she's saving us, but it just seems like a constant.
Unfortunately, with, again, even getting the answers so that council could discuss that, we plan on bringing this for council as soon as we have that. I know we've been working on a request for proposal so that we could have information for council to discuss. Again, Ashley is HR, but she's also our assistant administrator, and that's typically for most assistants. IT is a typical area in the audio video. That's what I did when I was an assistant in 2 other communities. So I've been helping, and then we've also pulled in other staff members. So we have the planning commission. So Atif has been working along with Dan and other staff members to learn our current system. Again, unfortunately, our system has a lot of components that are already at the end of life, and so when we had that power disruption, it did cause quite a problem.
But we need people that they know, the IT and the professional video recording and all that.
Yeah.
Atifa, it's not her job. She's already taking so many roles on top of running a planning commission roll call and all that, which was the clerk. They used to do that.
Yeah.
So now she's doing video and she's a planner. So we keep adding all these jobs on certain people that are going to get burned out.
Yeah. Don't disagree, and that's why through the request for proposal, we're looking for companies that will also provide service for the city so that we'd have a professional ability to have a company to do that. I've also been in touch with our local university, and once our system is upgraded to the modern equipment, they have told us that they could have students that actually could assist once we have our equipment running, and that could be a learning component for them to get future jobs. So we could have companies as well as other avenues to ensure that we are covered for recordings in here as well as for events.
Okay, meeting is adjourned at 10:38 p.m. Thank you and good evening.